Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Silent Sequester podcast. I am Isaiah Goins, and I'm here with my two lovely co-hosts, Chanel and Sasha. Our fourth person, Dylan, is running a little bit late, but he will be joining somewhere later down the road. We just got done watching the Sequester episode 2. It was very, very strategic, a lot of movement going on everywhere, and we're just here to talk about it. But how did you guys feel about the episode?
Insane.
I just wanted to get off the roller coaster. I was like, Audrey, just end it for me, please. I can't. It was just like, I don't know if y'all felt like almost being in a twister or in a tornado where you're just like, what's going on? This is going on. That's going on. So I obviously loved it. I loved everything about it. Like even the crazy moments, the bad moments, whatever. But like, I appreciate good TV. So I'm thankful.
Same. Yeah. That was like, what is it? Like a whirlwind?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Everyone was everywhere. Like these like little strategy groups going on, like all this talking, like me trying to figure out like, what would I do here? What would I do if I was the killer? What if I was the detective? Like, what would I do if I was up? Like, it was just like all this strategic gameplay, like constantly. And I love that. Like I thrive on strategic gameplay. So this was like my episode. Like I was in for it.
Period.
Yeah.
I literally was writing my notes for this episode like all throughout today, even while I was at work. And I was just like, my thumbs were getting like so tired today just because there's so much movement.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was a good episode. So let's just hop into it. So we start this episode and we actually pick up where we left off in episode 1 with Josh beating Jay West. And we find out about this first twist, and it's called the Luxury Row. The winner of each battle match will be granted the opportunity to win a power in this room, and there will be 3 boxes there. 2 of them, one of them will have nothing. Josh is officially the first person to win an LOS. How do you guys feel about the Luxury Row?
I liked it. I think it's something different because especially because in round 1, right? I think it was round 1 or 2. I can't exactly remember, but where Billy like leads this like Piper of Sequester, where Billy's like, "Ooh, let's go on the LOS hunt."
Yes.
So I just felt like we were on, like I was hunting for it, and I knew that the Luxury Row existed, but I'm still over here like, what's going on? Let's look for LOSs. So I loved it because I think it adds another twist into the game, and the players don't know yet. Obviously, eventually it's not going to be like the LOS thing will get found out, but I'm excited to see how Sequester, I'm assuming, will do another switch up on us as Sequester does. But I loved it, and I'm also excited, which we can talk later, but like as more people come in, just like the Survivor piece of it, where do they start like now hosting alliances, like the Luxury Row Alliance? Like what's going to happen now that Natalie comes back and knows about it? Like will her and Josh now have a connection?
Yeah, totally. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like I was saying like, if I'm Josh, like I'm going to hold that to me. And then like the other people be like, let's keep this quiet. We know that we have these things. Like, did you get it? Yes, whatever. Keep this close to our chest. And like, that way we can maybe play a little bit bolder, because it's like, now we have this thing close to our chest and no one knows that we have it. And they have no idea how to get it either. So it's like, we have this and maybe we can use it to our advantage too, because we can maybe drop it when we need it to. Like, listen, there's this thing in there if you want to go to a battle bag that you might get, but we don't know either if they're going to change it up. So it's just like, how long can they use this advantage too? But I loved it. Like I was like, yes, everyone's just like spiraling out in there because they're like, where are these LOSs? Like, how do we stay safe? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's interesting how you guys were talking about possibly Josh and Natalie working together, because I do think people in their positions coming in, not the biggest names coming into the season, I feel like they're almost perfect guinea pigs for the first 2 weeks for this, because I don't think that they're going to go out and just tell everybody that they got an LOS. I mean, they have a lot of work to do in this game right now. And just in case someone wants to just take the easy route again and then just throw him up there, that's it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Like, I think if it was like someone with a louder personality, they probably would be telling everyone, like, if it was like a Brent. But yeah, so we move into the next day and you see everybody getting ready to start for the next challenge. They're waiting to see who comes back out, and Josh comes out. Almost immediately, you see everybody just kissing Josh's butt. I'm so happy.
Oh my God, I'm glad it's you.
Yes. Oh my God. This is the same as the Big Brother HOH, right? Where everyone's like, oh, who wants to see my HOH room? And who wants to, so glad you won. Hugs, hugs, hugs. So I don't know how y'all are. And I actually wrote this down to ask all of you and anyone in the chat too. How do you make this authentic to yourself? Because I personally am not a hugger. Like, I don't like to hug people. It's just not how I show that I care about you. So to me, it would feel not genuine. So, but I know I have to do it, kiss the ring almost to make sure that you're not, if Josh was the killer, I don't want to be on the kill list. So I have to almost kiss the ring. So what is the best way, because it felt so fake.
I know if it was someone like me, what I would do is obviously give him his congratulations when he first comes out, but I would try to pull him aside almost a separate time later in the day, where there's not a whole crowd of people trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, and this comes off more genuine.
100%, same thing.
I like that.
I would totally. I'd be like, awesome, glad you're back, but then we'd have this conversation later, because if I was the person coming out and everyone's like, oh my God, blah blah blah, especially if you were someone throw him under, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's okay, nice try. You just want to hang with me now because maybe that I'm actually a bit of a threat and I might actually thrive. I see right through you.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
And just to even build up on that, it's kind of interesting because specifically people like Brent, Katie, Marcelo, they really built this newfound respect for Josh almost, because he was coming in, everyone if they didn't have this twist where they can battle back, this would just be the typical Big Brother week where they just go out. But since he came in, he talked the talk and he walked the walk. This gives these people a reason to respect him now. So that was a good moment for him. Another interesting moment with this was Muna actually speaking to Rachel and Shireen, and she pointed out saying how she believes that Josh and Brent are a duo now, because judging off of how everyone else is speaking, this was the first time everyone got to speak since the previous night. And everyone started to become a little bit more wary of him just because of how A, he didn't vote with the group, but B, they were so buddy in the house at that point. So
yeah, Brent actually said that on his Twitter. I don't know if y'all saw it, but yeah, they were in isolation up until that, when Josh came back to read the first clue for the day 2 or whatever, second episode. So that also put a few things in perspective for me, how they were just so wild as soon as they could talk to each other. So it made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because it was all of a sudden it's night and then it's day.
Yeah.
And then everyone's together. And I was just what the heck is where have they been? What time is it?
Exactly.
Where was he? Was he just in the barn this whole time, just waiting to surprise? What's going on?
I know. I'm assuming there must be a basement room that everyone else doesn't have access to.
Yeah.
We need a house tour, Audrey.
I know. If you can give me a host tour so I can see what's going on, because I saw one scene where they were at bunk beds. I'm who is in the bunk bed? I need all the who gets the big bedroom. I need answers.
I remember last season because they got to pick their beds and everything. That was a talking point, and I remember they said that when like the night's over, like you're not allowed to speak. I think they have a production member in like every room.
Yeah, there's a handler for each person, is what Brent said.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So no, I agree, because I think this was a bigger deal in the season 2 than even season 3, where it was a huge deal. I remember, I think Krista, right, from The Amazing Race, she like came in late, and this is a crazy memory. Yeah, she came in late, I think, and then I think it was like the master bed, and then 3 of them were sharing, and it was like a whole situation. Yeah, so I remember that. Yeah, so I remember that drama, which I'm assuming just isn't a thing because there's 13 people. It's a nicer, bigger house also.
Yeah, exactly. Just to roll back on the whole like Brent and Josh thing, I think super observant of Muna actually to like kind of bring that up, just to like be like on the radar, like, hey, Josh is back, but just watch out because, you know, he seems to have this like close tie to Brent. So it was just like that like little like shady like, hey, just so you know, we need to watch out for this and just kind of see how things unfold because we have to see how they're working together or whatever. So I think that was like a nice little like, hey, just so you know. And also it kind of takes the pressure off of this duo thing with her and, you know, and Jacob, because it's like, hey, why don't you check out this duo and leave my duo alone for a second? You know what I mean? So
and people bought it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's because I actually made that note when I was watching the show, and I literally put an LOL because I was like, what about your I think I said, what about your duo, Muna? But it was so funny because people bought it, so I can't even knock her for it. I think that's where we can talk a little later, but like Muna especially, I think in this episode was really, to me, besides Billy, was making these like structural changes in like little ways that I appreciated so much, and it was so beautiful, which I think will now carry her in a few more episodes because of that.
Yeah, 100%. She's kind of like networking a little bit more and like working with like other people, which is good. I didn't see them talking much through the episode. They were kind of doing their own networking and whatever. So I think she's setting herself up really good with the other people in the group as well, which is really good.
And actually, just to build up on that, I think that she really distanced herself from Jacob a lot this episode.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying there, for sure.
Like she focused on that. I don't know if you guys remember the all girls alliance that they made with Shireen and Rachel, and then Billy, not so much, but I mean, she was there for the original talk. So
Billy was there. Yes. Okay. I was like, who was the form? Like,
Rachel, I know.
I had to go back and look for that.
Muna, and I'm trying to think if I think it was Billy, but I'm like trying to remember off the top. Yes, it would make sense.
Yeah. I think it was the 4 women of color, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That's why I was like, I'm trying to think if there's more, but I think that was it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, before I said it. Yeah, so it was really interesting, not just because they weren't wearing the same denim jacket, but or denim shirt, but it actually, like, they were really pushing each other, like, to find out info. And I don't know if they had a moment where they talked and actually said, hey, like, let's be conscious, because we got that last episode, so I don't know if they editing didn't want to be redundant again, but I didn't want it to feel so like, I just want to know if they had that moment, because I think that almost ups how great of players they are if they were like, hey, let's talk later.
Yeah. No, I think they had that chat. I think they realized like they were seen as a duo like right off the bat, and they were just like, how do we distance each other a little bit more? And like, that's such good gameplay. Like, it's like people are so busy like doing their own thing, and then if you just kind of like split up and like split yourself into groups, because if you look at like who Jacob was talking to and then who Muna was talking to, it was completely different groups. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jacob was talking to like Marcelo and Katie and like Spencer, I think, at one point, and Muna was like, with Shireen and Rachel and Billy and stuff. So it was just like, you can see them kind of working both sides of the room, which is really good.
And this is where I really think, like, we touched on this last time, but I really think it will help Muna a little bit more, because if this like outsiders, I don't know what to call the like Billy's and Rachel's of the cast, I think it would be so helpful for Muna if like she almost now is insulated on both sides versus Jacob. I think is as well, but I think Muna is more.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and actually, well, let me wait till after we explain the challenge. So the challenge this time was it was a detective and the killer challenge. It's pretty simple, but the way they explained it could confuse some people. Basically, one person's a killer, has to kill a certain amount of people in 3 rounds. One person's a detective. Their goal is literally just to find the killer. If they don't find the killer, they will be put into the bottom. Billy, by random decision, was chosen to be the killer, and Rachel, by random, was decided to be the detective. Rachel's strategy, as Sasha was actually just talking about earlier, she wanted to grab the people who she had a few bonds with the last challenge, and basically get them all together, tell those people only that they were the detective, and then have those people spread out, gather information, and then they come back as a unit later. In retrospect, I think this was a smart decision for Rachel in some areas. Like, I think the intent was good, but I don't think the execution was there. Because like she said during the exile challenge, she wasn't as tight with people as she originally thought she was. So I really think that the first interaction when she told the people that she was the detective really helped build her bonds with like Muna and Shireen. But we're going to get to the negatives later, but she waited so long. Just like, she handled it a little incorrectly to me, but I mean, it was a good idea. It was in the right, it was in the right spectrum. Just executed bad.
Yeah, no, totally. I see. So I'm thinking if I was the detective or whatever, like I would probably think the way that Rachel played it is how I would play it too, because I'm like, I just want to be a bit low key, see if I can get some information and all that. Now watching it and seeing how it unfolded, now I can understand how getting it out there a little bit earlier would actually benefit you, because she had mentioned, oh, if, say, someone in your alliance is the killer and you're the detective, then you're screwed, like it's really bad. But actually, I think it could benefit you in the end, because if someone in your alliance is the killer and you're like, hey, I'm the detective or whatever, you guys can kind of run the nominations that way, right? So you can say, hey, listen, I know you're the you're the killer. Keep your noms or whatever. I won't suss you out. You put up 3 people that for sure will go before me, and then I'll just make sure that you don't go on the block. So you kind of make a deal in that sense, right? It may even work out for someone that's not in your alliance, because the killer may still come up to you and be like, listen, I will tell you I'm the killer. I won't, that 3rd nom, I still have time, or that 2nd nom, I still have time to change it. So I can change it for you. I'll give you that 2nd nom, or I can put someone up that won't, again, that will go over you if we work together on this and you don't suss me out. So now that I see it, now that I've saw it go on, I think that makes more sense for you to reveal yourself more instead of leaving it to the end. And also leaving it to the end, people are probably looking at her like, why did she leave it so long? Like, I don't understand. So it may make her look a little bad in the end. Like, I think it will blow over, but at the time it was maybe put her in a little bit of danger.
Yeah, I think knowing, which I think knew from the start, knowing that you're going to be outed in round 4 or technically end of round 3. Yeah, to me, I didn't really understand her point. Like, I agree with you that she's, again, we talked about this last time, where she's not really like seeing where all the pieces are so well. I think she really connects with who she connects, especially Rachel and Shireen connected really well, and we see that, right, like in her guesses as well. But I agree that you have to gain, whatever leverage you have to use that to gain information, because people just aren't seeing you in that way, right? Like, I don't know that folks are seeing Rachel as necessarily this like beast, the social strategist, et cetera, et cetera. And, like, unfortunately, like this big 6, whatever these big players are, like everyone else is like, I don't like how they're not meshing together, or like how the cast is kind of very obviously split. So I think this is where Rachel, like, again, part 2 of it, where she should have used whatever information she had, or whatever leverage, she had to get information. And I think people would have given it, because they were, again, in Sequester so long that they were ready to talk. Right, they were just ready to like
explode.
I think, how do you, and that's hard. I don't blame her, but like I think unfortunately in Sequester you really do have to, like, you have to hold both, where like in the moment, what do I need to do to get to the next round, and how do I set myself up, and it's not easy. I think for like, it was beautiful to see Billy and Rachel executing it at the same time, because I think Billy did it almost so flawlessly versus Rachel, where I was like, oh yes, oh okay, I understand. Like that's how I felt about Rachel, at least.
Yeah.
And I think after hearing you say that, I think that the strategy that she had was really effective for the very first round, because like you said, these people were sequestered, so like they didn't really get to talk. Like the entire cast was like not focused on the challenge, honestly. The first round.
No.
I think round 2 definitely there should have been some adjustment though. Yeah, I agree with that. But just moving on from that, so we get into the challenge. Like we said earlier, Josh, everyone's just like kissing his butt. But the main person to pull him aside was Marcelo. I think this was just a little bit damage control. Like this was like, that was his attempt, because he just exiled Marcelo last time, and Josh wasn't too happy about that. I don't think Josh is holding a grudge, but I also don't think that he feels like he owes Marcelo anything. But Marcelo wants to work with Josh there. That's his attempt. So we move on to the next room, and Brent is pulling Katie aside, stealing her from Rachel. And this was a very fun little interaction here, because Brent, he's just trying to apologize to Katie. And Katie, like she's saying like she's okay with it in a smaller degree in person, but in the confessional, she just lets it all out. Like I actually watched Rob Has a Podcast, and she did her interview. Literally, she was just saying that like she was just so fired up still. But Brent here basically tries to, well, first he throws Josh's deal under the bus, where he said that he would get pulled if he didn't vote with him. So that's the first thing. The second thing though is that he proposes a very strange deal. The first half was like, I was like, oh, okay, like it was, if she gets voted out, that she can pull him, but if he gets voted out, he can pull her. That's where he lost there.
Yeah.
What? Who would ever make this deal? Yeah, for sure. Like, even if I didn't. Okay, yeah, for sure. If you get thrown in the bottom, but I had nothing to do with it, pull me right in. Like,
right?
What does she owe? What does she owe you? Yeah. I mean, I get it. At the time, it was like kind of like, hey, let's do like a, I help you, you help me, like whatever, just to show loyalty. Let's make this deal like was an eye for an eye or whatever, right? But it was just like, when I heard that logic, and then Katie came up, I was like, this is exactly what I would say if I was in Katie's situation.
Yeah.
Like, why the heck would I ever make this deal? Why? What do I owe you?
Exactly.
And you've done nothing for me till this point.
And it was interesting because Brent, like I like tried to understand his reasoning, because he tweeted about it too, and I still didn't really get it. But the only piece I will give him is that basically his point, I think, was, and he said it in a confessional, I think, was that or to Katie herself, I honestly couldn't keep track, but it was that means I will work really hard not to put you in or not to get you nominated. So that's the only thing. So to me, I don't know why there couldn't have been another deal instead of like the marriage of necessity is what he called it. Because again, like I didn't really understand it. And I was just like, it was like a burning building, right? Where you can't not like look away, because you're like,
why?
Stop. stop Audible. And then it's like, God like sends Muna to like stop the train wreck. And what does Brent do? He's like, boom.
Oh,
right?
No.
And I was like, look, and then it happens multiple times. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But like, to me, it was more that like, look, people really try to help you. The sequester gods try to help you, try to stop this craziness. But look what you did, sir.
Yeah, no, it was just crazy. Like, if he had made the deal, like, listen, to mend our friendship, you can pull me in if this thing happens, and I'm going to make sure that you don't go in. And then that was the end of the deal.
Yeah.
Cool. You're good. Fence mended. You know what I mean? But then the whole, like, eye for an eye, it was just like, oh no. I have to say though, that's Sequester editing. Like last week they did Natalie dirty. This week they did Brent dirty so hard with the little rat noises. I was like, oh no, stop doing that. Because he would kind of like sneak in a room and they'd make like a little rat noise. I was like, stop! I hate that. Please stop. I hate that. I get how it looks
bad.
It was awful. And they did him dirty.
And Hunter got that last season, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So what I find really, like, again, full circle for Brent, Mr. Twitter Fingers, is because I think Brent like went in on Hunter being a rat, and like he was like, I love these rat noises. It makes sense. It 100% is for you. And then look where we are.
And look where it ended up. That's just so funny to me. And then like the whole door slam, and then like it was like Muna and like
Brendan
and Brendan
and I was like, Brendan got like really mad, and I was like, that would be mad. That would be me. Like, I hate, like, usually I'm pretty like cool, whatever, but like if I get like, if there's like any sort of like door being slammed in my face or aggression or whatever, I'm just gonna be like, well, we're not cool anymore.
Right? Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you.
like I've even noticed, especially with Brendan, like ever since the exile round, Brendan doesn't seem to like Brent. Like this episode specifically, he was just like trashing Brent in the diary room a lot.
Yeah. He really did not like that door being slammed in his face. And then like even with Rachel, like I don't. Was it Rachel was having a conversation with like Katie?
Yes, and that's how it started. It was Rachel and Katie talking first, and then Brendan did the finger like. Yeah,
so it's like strike two for Brent, Rachel, strike two for Brent. Like with Rachel, like it's just like this will never happen between.
No, and I was just, to me, it's like, and I've podcasted with Brent twice, and like he's so kind. Even when we were like done podcasting, he was like really nice to be like, Sasha, you did such a good job. Like that. So I know that the empathy is in there. It was 100%. Just, so that's why I think it was like funnier and harder to watch, because I was like, no, all you should have said was like, it's so obvious, Katie and I need to talk, Rachel, I'm so sorry. And I think Brent knows Rachel doesn't like him, or at least he must get the vibes, because Rachel does not like, no poker face when it comes to him. So to me, it's like, there's a way to do it, right? Because like people on The Bachelor do it all the time and it works, but it's like there's a way to be like, hey Katie, like I need to talk to you. And then Muna actually didn't even, right, like he slammed the door in her face, but I don't remember Muna necessarily reacting.
I don't think we saw that anywhere.
Right. No. So I thought it was really funny, because it was almost like, oh, they like expect it from Brent, right? Like Wild and now acting
like,
this way.
Bye.
Yeah. So to me, it's almost like, how do you, it was great TV. I appreciated it. Yes, thank you. And like for Brent's game, like I think it could have been so easy to be like, Muna, actually, I just want to talk to Katie, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know why the whole Brent situation needs to happen.
I think probably with the whole isolation thing, and then probably them sitting away for like so many hours. And then I'm sure like if I was Brent and all that stuff just went down, where that vote went down with Josh and Katie, and then you get isolated, I would be up all night like anxiously trying to figure out how to like deal with the situation. So I think he came in with a plan. Everyone's like, his nerves or everyone's nerves are like so high, like octane, like they just want to go in, and like that probably intensified like how he was feeling and whatever. And obviously like that's good TV, and that's it. So I think that's why they isolated them a bit, because they knew emotions would be so high, because they're just like haven't been able to game talk and they don't know what's going on and whatever. So I think that probably just heightened the whole situation.
What's the opposite of Dan's funeral? Because that's what happened here. I don't know.
Brent's door shut.
Yeah.
Oh, Josh Abbott, you would say, "Can I steal you away from?"
Yes. Stay away from it.
Oh God.
So what I forgot to even say was, even during this conversation, Brent actually brings up something that was off screen last round to Katie, telling her that people are throwing her name under the bus and she's being targeted, but specifically he heard it from Shireen.
Yeah.
Of a couple of people throwing Shireen under the bus this round.
Yes.
But yeah, Katie's was in some hot fire. So we go into another room, and Natalie is speaking her strategy about the challenge, and she wants to try to be present for as many conversations as possible. And the first person she actually speaks to is Billy. And the reason she speaks to Billy first is because the last time they spoke was the Exile Challenge. She didn't want her to feel like it was just a situational moment and that she was just using her. She wanted her to know her intentions were pure. Billy tells Natalie that she has no intentions of ever targeting her, but little did Natalie know that she was the first on her kill list.
Okay, I don't think we've talked too much about Killer Billy, but I just have to say that Killer Billy is my favorite thing of this entire episode. I think Dylan touched on it in our first episode, but people underestimate Billy so hard when it comes to her intelligence. And when I was watching this, I was like, everyone's talking about who's the smartest player, whatever. Is it Brent? Is it, I don't know
Josh.
who else? Is it Josh? Who is it? It's Billy. Okay? Yes. Right now, it is Billy. Every single killer move, and we'll get into it further, I'm sure. Every single move Billy made was so on point. And I don't think anyone will ever figure out that Billy was the killer. And if Billy is smart, which we know that she is, she will never say it, because I think that move in that round is such a killer jury, like yeah, such a killer jury point. Like, it's like, hey, by the way, I did all these things and you never found out because of how like strategic I was and how good social game I had there, because her name wasn't brought up one time. And you know what? And yes, the whole Natalie thing, like she put Natalie up. I think that was a fair move, because it's like you cannot even tell who would put Natalie up, because at that point Natalie hadn't really had conversations with anyone. And if she had actually had that conversation with Billy in the last round, then whatever. So like I felt bad about it for a second, then I was like, no, it makes sense, because at the time if that conversation hadn't happened. But anyway, just wanted to bring up Billy.
Yes. Yeah, and not only that, right? Like I think Billy, like we can dissect it all we want, but like I think Billy played this so well, because like in round 3, right, when she was holding like forum and everyone is like, oh, Billy, let us tell you who we think it is, blah 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 blah, Marcelo, or whoever, Josh, Brent, whatever. But like, to me, it's so, she just played it so beautifully. And I really do think 2 things. One, like I think folks are thinking Rachel and Billy, are like kind of putting them in this box of like this newbie, blah, 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 whatever, don't know what's going on. And Billy is for sure using that to her advantage. I think Billy, and she said it in a few confessionals, right? Saying people don't know or they don't realize it's me. And guess what? I'm still going to get you. And she put up Jacob, which I know that Jacob wasn't her target, but if Jacob makes it far, she can say, I'm the one that sussed him out. And I knew, she can like lie and say, I knew he was a big, threat and I needed to get him out, blah, blah, blah. And the third thing, which I just forgot, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, these two things. Yeah, whatever.
Good points anyway.
Yeah, but and the third point was like the amount of energy everyone rightfully so was giving Josh. Like, we have to give Billy this episode because I just like she played it so freaking well. Like, you know, I was like cracking jokes about like the eyes and the energy, but like it worked for her, and like not only worked, she made it work for her, and like period, Billy.
Yeah, it was really good. And even like production with the like the red green screen the whole time, and like the like maniacal everything. I was like, I am living for this whole killer scene. I'm living for this whole killer scene right now. You picked the right person for this, and I love it.
And I felt like I was watching almost like an Among Us game. Because,
yes!
Like literally right afterwards, what does she do? She's talking to Jacob, and she was like, I just need to fit in because everyone's looking for LOSs. And she's like, Jacob's like, oh, help me look, just do lookout and I'll look for LOS. It's like, all right, so like I'm down. And like that just helps you blend in.
It's like when you're the imposter and you're like, oh, I'm also a crewmate. Let me do my task. In this case, it's like the task is to look for an LOS like everyone else. She's like, yeah.
She was, oh my, like the how she was faking everything. Like, y'all, I could never, like, even if I wanted to, and I know that's the right thing to do, like my face, zero poker face. Like I can't even imagine being like, oh, who do you think the killer is? Oh, that makes sense. Like, I think I would have to tell at least one person, but like, what? Just, I'm in awe.
My favorite, I wrote this down because it made me laugh so much when Shireen was like, Jacob has to be the killer. And Billy's like, what? Just like, oh my God. Like, it's just like, oh my God, this is so good.
I
know. Or she was like, not Jacob. Like,
I know.
So
she's like,
good.
say less.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, so good.
Oh, and it's crazy because I really think the fact that the house wasn't at all like focused on the challenge at all, like they were pulling to Josh. They were all coming at Josh last round for looking for an LOS. Yeah. Now the entire house is
everyone's looking for it.
Yeah, like I actually, because I DM'd Brent before this, and I was curious. I was like, how did you guys know like people were looking for LOSs? Like, was this a whole group thing? He was like, it's so random. Like, I just heard people were doing it, then I just started doing it. Nobody
join in.
Oh my God.
Okay. Well, the child, and I don't know how long the rounds were either, but it was just like,
I think it was 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
The counter.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'm not the detective, so like this isn't on me. I'm gonna look for an LOS, right?
It's like if no one else is trying to find who it is, no one's coming out as a detective, no one's exchanging information, then everyone else is just gonna be like, all right, well, let me just get ready for the elimination at this point.
So
it's literally like, I'm not gonna be the idiot, like, you know, not working for myself. Like, let me be selfish.
Exactly.
It was perfection. Like that, one of those moments, like reality TV, like top reality TV moments, because it was so good and so genuine.
Yeah, totally.
So we go into the next scene, and it was actually showing Rachel, Muna. Well, originally it was Rachel and Shireen, but then Muna came in later. But basically Rachel's taking these moments, like she said, to strengthen her bonds with her alliance, and she lets those two know that she was the detective, and they are very grateful that she told them this. They come to the agreement just based off of first like guesses, because there weren't really anyone trying to figure out who it was, that they wanted to just assume that it was Katie, just because she was sus, her personality, she got pulled in the room with Brent, yada yada. Honestly, the first round of this, there was never going to be a real concrete way to like figure out who it was unless everyone worked together, which they weren't, so I don't really blame them for this one. But that's what was going on over there. You go into the other room, and Brent and Josh are actually reconnecting, and they actually decide to work together. We didn't get the full confirmation part from Josh, but Brent specifically said that he's like, I do like him, I want to work with him. And I think Josh is down. Like I think since Brent honored his deal, despite it being in a threatening way, he agreed to it. So that's a group now. That's a duo.
Yeah, 100% confirmed duo. Yeah, definitely like, because I feel like Brent is like, because he talks about, oh, he listens to me, whatever. So I think it's like one, like a good duo because he knows that Josh is like kind of a fan or whatever. So like he would actually like stick with him and whatever. And at the same time, I think he just wants to work with him because he feels like he's like a good guy and like person and like competitive and whatever. And Josh comes off as really genuine too, which I think like obviously he's a really chill dude. So I feel like, you know, and he looks Billy right in the eyes. So like I feel like Josh is someone that like that can be like people can trust. So like Brent is like, yeah, definitely like he's a big fan of mine. He'll like do stuff for me, like he'll help me out. And I definitely need something like that, something solid like that right now after the whole Katie situation. So I think it's definitely like a confirmed duo. The new duo to look out for besides Muna, you know, and Jacob. So.
And the handshake, what the heck was that? Like, oh no.
There's just chaotic energy everywhere. There's just chaotic energy everywhere. No one knows what to do. They have 10 minutes to get things done. They're just like, oh, moving on. Like, I can't deal. Like, I feel like that's just everything right now.
If Josh didn't like, I said Josh, if Brent didn't like go around telling everyone, oh yeah, this guy's a fan of me, this guy's a fan of me, like I feel like Brent could have just went with the story like, oh, Josh threatened to like pull me in if I didn't vote with him. People would have been like, oh, there's no way Brent and Josh are working together.
Yeah,
but like now he's like, oh, he's a fan of me, he's a fan of me, he's a fan of me.
Yeah, he brought it up a couple times.
That like I also made a note, like you don't have to constantly mention that. This again goes to like my just like irkness, whatever. Like I'm a little irked just again by this like big personalities versus everyone else. So like I'm really praying that this Billy, Josh, Rachel's, and even Shireen actually, in some way, like kind of come together against them because like I wasn't really feeling this whole like he's a fan of me, he's a fan. Sure, like it's nice, but I don't know. Like I think Josh is more than a fan. I guess that's why I think I was getting. I was like, yeah, and there's more to him.
And he's a really good player.
Yeah,
yeah. Now we know he's a really good player. Now that we've seen some of his stuff, and you know he's got some fight.
Yeah.
So basically that was it. Like I said, other than Rachel telling people who the detective was, nobody really tried to find who the killer was. And I mean, I think. It was also because since they didn't all get to talk to each other since last time, but that was that round. So like I said, Rachel guesses Katie for the killer. Didn't like she wasn't the killer. And Billy decides to take out Natalie and Spencer first because she feels like those two are floaters. No one's really going to care if they get out, and they were correct. No one really cared. So we're going to go into round two, and right when round two starts, Brent. Well, before I even get to that, Josh is suspicious of Rachel and thinks she has an important role just because of the way her demeanor and all that. I thought that was a good.
The eyes so again.
Observant. Yeah. So observant. When he picked that up, I was like, "Damn." Yeah, like damn, like I feel like someone would pick that up off of me because I'd be just like sitting there like, don't look at me, like or whatever. So that was really observant, and it was really good of him to just actually. I probably would have went up to her and been like, "Listen, if you're the detective, tell us." like in a calm way, because I think after it was announced that those two were up, that's when Brent got up and was like, you need to tell the detective, right? Like it happened right then. Yeah. Which he was totally right. Like he was absolutely correct. Like at this point, you need to tell us that you're the detective. His approach was a little much. Yeah. And I think that's probably what scared her because she's probably like, and she already has like this weird thing with him, like that they don't get along and whatever. So it's like, if it was me and like and someone who I'm not good with was like, you need to tell us right now, I'd probably be like, no.
Especially with, the the space he takes up, right? Like physically being so tall, and I think just his voice, and again, just like him being, you know, so comfortable with how he speaks, all of that. Like, I think the amount of space he takes up versus she just doesn't take up that space in the same way in these rooms is, so that's why, to me, I was like, why would you say it like that? Again, like, it's just like someone needs to take him on a walk. Because I was just like, this, like, you need to go on a walk by yourself and, like, you know, do some like meditation, because I think like everything he says actually is correct if you take out you know, Brent, right, from it, because I'm sure we all have that person, right, where, and Brent is that for Rachel, where anything you say, even if you're telling me the sky is blue, like, it's just not going to sit right with me. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I'm not going to listen. Like, I don't think it's good. And that almost pushed Rachel into her corner even more. Whereas, like, I think there needs to be some kind of like mending the fences, or some kind of like, hey, I totally understand why you wouldn't want to tell, you know, people at the start. Like, there needs to be a little bit more empathy when dealing with anyone. Like, I think that's just gonna get him especially farther, because from day one, kind of folks were not really having him in the same way.
Yeah. And again, like, bringing it back to like the whole, like, they were like sequestered or whatever, like, again, heightened situation. Like, the rounds are so short. Like you said, if he had just, like, if someone had just been like, let's go on a walk, and you're correct, but like, but at the same time, why would anyone do that? They probably want that to happen. They probably want it to be this crazy, right? So it's just like, you know, that's probably something that's like a friend would do, but like a competitor, go off.
Oh my God.
It's a little interesting, because I think as the round progressed, I think people were agreeing with what Brent was saying, actually. Like, I think that if he just approached that specific situation a little bit calmer, like Sasha was saying, I do think a lot more people would have been more like willing to like just like answer. And I think maybe Rachel would have considered, I still think she would have held it, but like she possibly would have like revealed it like later, like a little bit earlier than she did.
100%.
I think just
so too.
And here's like also question, like, for Brent, and I think maybe because I think I know the answer, that Brent is a high target, but like, Brent isn't the detective, right? So the detective isn't doing a good job. The detective goes up. So why are you, like, to me, especially if I'm a Brent or one of these type of people, like, I want to get the smoke off of me as much as I can. So that's one other person that's getting nominated that isn't me. So why not? You know, so that's, and people 100% would be mad at her. So that's why, or mad at, sorry, the detective. So to me, it's like that again takes the heat off of Brent, right? Like, if folks are mad at anyone but you, instead of you again standing, and he's in the middle of the room too, right? It's not like he's in the back. I think like placement also matters when you're giving speeches like that. But it was really interesting because to me, because I think, he knew Katie was in it already. So that's like his biggest kind of like competitor, like person that would nominate him anyway. So to me, like, someone else needs to take the heat. So like, why not? Like, let them.
Exactly. Let them be their own like
combust
or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly. At the same time, so I think when that happened and he like stood up and did that, I think a lot of people were like kind of turned off and like, whoa, like whatever. But I think later down the line, was it Muna who was like, yo, like Rachel needs to like speak up a bit and say like she's the detective. I don't know if it was Muna or Shireen. Like,
it was Muna. It was Muna. Yeah.
So if I was Muna or Shireen, I'd be like, I'd probably take Rachel's side and be like, do it.
Exactly.
Just do it. Like right now.
Like,
you know.
To counter what you were saying, Sasha, like, I will say, only because he did influence what people were thinking, like Josh,
right?
You got Jacob, all those people were like, yeah, why isn't this person like outing themselves? But B, if you remember, Billy's original list actually had Brent going out the next round. Like, if he didn't make himself like out there and like people started getting sus of him, he was going to get killed, and he was actually going to be one of the people up for elimination and possibly left because there was a lot of people who wanted him out. So I mean, in hindsight, there's like truths to both
Yes.
No,
Like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I think, yeah, because and I'm sure, like, I wanna talk through that more. Yeah, like how Billy made the switch, because I don't know if like it was super, like, it made a lot of sense. Like I think she did the right thing. Again, it helps like add Jacob's name to the mix, which we haven't seen before. And like I don't think anyone would think Billy would put up Jacob. So yeah, maybe you're like I see your point too,
like
actually.
the reasoning she said that she changed gears to Jacob instead of Brent is because she said that she hopes people accuses Brent.
Yes.
Oh,
Um,
right. Okay, that's what it
which
That's what it
was.
people
was.
Yeah.
were like Billy
Mhm.
was right. Like people started to accuse Brent. Like you saw, I mean, we'll get into it, but you saw when Rachel got out, she was like, it's either Josh or Brent. So I mean,
Mhm.
she was right. Like I think they were both right in like instances. It's like it's a very tricky round to like
Yeah.
to navigate through, honestly. Like I think that what you're saying is correct. I think what I'm saying is correct. It's
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, totally. I think it was a smart move to put up Jacob because I think if she had kept Brent, then I think it would be I mean the three could have really been anyone, but I think if she kept Brent, like it may kind of suss her out as well. Like it might maybe there'd be like maybe it's Muna, maybe it's Jacob, maybe it's Billy. But then when you throw up Jacob, it's like why would anyone who's work yeah, exactly. She was the perfect killer.
Yes.
And why would anyone put like they put up like it was like so random. It's like Natalie,
Mhm.
Spencer, and Jacob. Like who's it was so random. It's like
Yes.
who is this at this point? And it seems like a very sporadic move, which
Mhm.
seems like a Brent thing to do. You know what I mean? Just like throw up all these people. At the same time, no, I don't think he would have put up Katie. But like I think
No, I
think
think it would have
yeah,
been too obvious,
it would
and
have
I
been
think he
too
would have
obvious.
told
Exactly.
Katie, "I'm the killer, and I'm not putting
Exactly.
you up," or so we hope, at least.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I will
Exactly.
say I also fault the house because I feel like if they had this type of energy in the first round, they
Mhm.
would have had a lot more success, you know. But like second round, like playing by numbers, there's
Yeah.
all those people in the house left, and you only have like 2 rounds to figure it out. You know, it's a hard challenge to really navigate. I
Yeah, yeah.
Really, really
yeah.
hard.
Um, but yeah, Rachel was saying that she didn't expose because she still felt like she can figure out who the killer was. So you actually see Brendan chime in a little bit here, and he was saying that he knows that this challenge is like a lost cause,
Yeah.
and what he was going to do with his time instead of trying to find the killer was he was going to bond with as many people as he could during the challenge because he felt like if one of these people do get eliminated, that I want to be on the good side so I don't get pulled in just in case they call me for my vote.
Yeah, I think that was absolute. So I think Brendan played this round pretty well
Mhm.
because he did that exact thing. He was chatting with everyone, making sure that he was good. And then even where he threw his vote was
Mhm.
also like really, really smart too. And I don't think anyone who uh like actually got evicted, whether it be like Natalie or Spencer, I don't think they would have asked him for his vote at all because he kind of just, again, flew kind of under the radar and was just like working the room and whatever. So I think actually in this round, he might have been in the best position in a sense that he's flying under the radar, but at
Yeah.
the same time, he's playing the room strategically and kind of talking to everyone,
Yes.
which I think that's one thing that's Spencer was missing in this round is that he wasn't really talking to anyone and a
Mhm.
bit in the last one, he was kind of talking to Katie
Mhm.
a little bit here and there, and that's about it. But like he could have been also just like chatting and whatever. I mean, in the end, I think he was up like the first round, right?
Yeah.
So that's like kind of crisis mode in that
Mhm.
sense. So with Brendan, it worked out because he wasn't put up like Spencer was, and he's like, well, if I'm not put up, I'm going to use this time to actually navigate and have some good social games. So I think he played it really well. I think he was in a good position here.
And he wasn't promising, right? That's another thing. Which in round 3, or not round 3, sorry. After round 3, I think a few players did really well, but I think Brendan was almost like sowing those seeds before it even got to the voting round, which I loved.
Yes, exactly. Like I think it was a very good move. Again, people really underestimate so another underestimated player is him. So
Yes.
like people underestimate Billy because they thought like when they were talking about smart players,
Mhm.
they didn't think she was one.
Yeah.
Same thing with him. They really underestimate him because he's just like this long hair and whatever. But really, you know, he's there. It's his like wheels are turning. Like he's thinking of what his next move is going to be and like the relationships he's going to bond to get where he needs to go.
So, just for a quick moment, Jacob and Spencer actually talk during this round, and they try to solidify something. Obviously, I mean, Jacob's game has just been accept every line that's thrown to me. So, like, little does Spencer know that he has all these deals going on, but they lock something there. I mean, obviously, it wasn't as strong as he believes, but we're also moving down a little bit later in the round. We see Jacob and Marcelo, Shireen. Shireen. So I'm gonna fix that. Shireen and Rachel. They're actually sitting in the room and they're like, all right, we need to sit here in a circle. We need to promise each other. Friendship circle, promise that we're not the detective. And Rachel is like, yeah, I'm not the detective.
Oh no, this was it. This was the time.
Yes.
When she sat there and she was like, yeah, for sure. I was like, no, tell them
We're gonna find out.
Right now. Like literally the round is almost over. Be like, guys, it's me. I'm so sorry. It's me. Like it is. And it's just like, oh no, another lie. Like,
oh my God.
This was the moment.
Even Shireen, right? What Shireen was like, okay, okay. Because she was like, right, okay, I'll play what you want. Okay. Because because you could tell by her face, she was kind of like, girl, this is the time. Because and that room was like safe to do so, actually. But I just feel like, yeah, Rachel needs almost to take stock of who is on her side and who, you know, she's wanting to almost work with. Because I think her alliance of 4, but that's nice, but I don't think it's enough. So, or alliance of 3 other people. But yeah, so that's where, again, it was a missed opportunity for sure, but like a good moment for us to watch.
Now,
yeah, for sure.
Now, Jacob leaves the room, and Shireen takes this opportunity to tell Billy, Marcelo, and Rachel that she thinks Jacob is the killer. This was not the best move because, I mean, and I don't blame her. I mean, other than Marcelo, like there's no way she was going to know Billy was the killer. But Marcelo, like, you should not be saying this in front of him at all. Like that's his final 2 right there, you know. And judging by how everyone else is speaking, like this was almost common knowledge. I don't know, like a lot of people this round was talking about how tight they were. But yeah, you don't want to be telling this person this because it came back to bite her later down the road.
Yeah, for sure. Like, again, bringing up the Billy, like, what?
What?
You don't say. Like, yeah, it was just like, yeah, I definitely agree with that one. Like, it was just like kind of throwing out killer things right there. Like, and again, probably if they knew the detective, they probably just relay that to the one person, but they had no idea who it was at this point. So they were, I think, she kind of relayed it to everyone. Yeah, like, it was like she did know.
Yeah, that's what she knew from round 1. That's why I definitely want to like take a moment because I don't think that was good for her game either. Like I think if you're gonna throw names out, I understand why, but I think like you need to strategize a little bit more about like the name you're gonna throw out or the name you're gonna kind of give Rachel, because not that Rachel didn't think for herself. I think like Rachel gave us good reasons why she was suspecting who it was, and I don't see anything wrong with them, but I was just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, you know, this person's a detective, so like you have to be a little bit more like finesse it. But because honestly, again, if I were Rachel, I'd be like, why is this person giving me every single person she gave me is wrong, and like I don't like, this is not sitting right with me either. But like thankfully that didn't happen. I think like they were still able to work together. It was fine, but I could also see how that could cause some conflict for Rachel.
Yeah, I think just a little bit. Like, I don't think it will cause like crazy amounts of conflict, but it might be a bit of an annoyance to her.
Yeah, that's what
that this has happened. Can we circle back for a second? Because the whole Jacob and Spencer, when they made that deal, was that after Spencer had been nominated or he had?
That was during round 1. That was during round 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is his first time interacting with someone other than Katie, I think, right? Or maybe a bit of
No, I
Brendan.
mean he
No,
made
Spencer.
deals with
Yeah.
like Brendan and Brent and like
So
even
he was,
during. Oh no, you're good.
no, so he was like talking to other people and kind of like chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the air, which the chat also is talking a little bit about, where it was just, it felt so like meh, or it felt so
Yeah. Yeah, it
like
wasn't
Spencer just,
genuine.
yeah, like something
Mhm.
wasn't adding up. Again, like just like we say, is it the edit or is this, like actually? But going back to this big six where like I think Spencer maybe felt like a Katie or a Brent would be the killer, and then he like probably thought he was like insulated.
Yeah, he probably thought he was like kind of we're in Brendan's situation
Yes.
where he's just like he seems good with everyone, but I think Brendan maybe like chatted with more people and had more interactions and stuff. And again, I don't know if that's just like the edit or whatever. But you could feel it more with Brendan that he was like in a nice spot, whereas like with Spencer, and I don't know how much he talked. So Billy's the killer. You don't know how much he's
Mhm.
talked to Billy either. So if he didn't have that genuine connection with Billy, I don't think like him being put up probably isn't a surprise, because it might be a surprise if he doesn't know who the killer is, who he
Yeah.
doesn't know.
Yeah.
But to all of us, it's like, oh no, this makes total sense.
I will say, like, I feel like he was this close to getting to that Jacob Jones like click almost until he started doing like the Captain America speeches and all that. Because that was the moment where he told Rachel and Natalie that like, oh yeah, I promised Jacob this like a couple rounds ago, all that. I think that was the moment where like, because Jacob is almost like the control of like information. So all we know that could have been like, Spencer's cool, but I'm not feeling him that much.
That's not that's like, it's like, yeah, I'll talk to you, but that's not like my real like close alliance at all. I think he was annoyed because he didn't see it coming. I'm just like reading the chat.
I mean,
or
to even
whatever,
add on to that, like he's like public, like it seems like everybody knows that like him and Katie are like this almost.
Yeah, they know they're close. They're super, but that seems like it's the
yeah.
only bit, like the only real bond that he has.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think probably with the conversations he had, he felt like comfortable, like that he would be put up, but I guess it just wasn't enough to the amount that people see or think that he's good.
And this is for.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and no, this is just for future Sequester players, right? Like, no matter where you are on the totem pole and no matter, like, how perceived threat level you are, like, you need to get good with everyone, which actually I thought Natalie was trying to do, and I felt so bad.
I think it was just too late at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where it's almost like, if you're like someone that actually has some social capital, like Spencer does, because he at least has one person, right, that's like ride or die. Well, maybe ride, I don't know about die, but at least the ride part of it is for you. So to me, like, if you have that much social capital, you need to like spend it, which again, like, why I think Muna is going to go far, because I just feel like she's doing that, she's spending that social capital versus like someone like Spencer, where I just felt like he was a little too comfortable. Like Marcelo is breaking off from that, and we saw that a little bit too. But just for future players, like, make sure you're talking to everybody.
Yeah, no matter if you want to work with them or not.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So we're gonna continue on with the challenge a little bit. It's getting close to the end of it, and it looks like what Brent did is like it started off like a seed and now it's like a tree now. Like people are like, who is the detective?
Yeah, come on.
Yes.
So Muna is like, all right, let me go tell this girl, like, we need to, so she tells Rachel, like, you need to out yourself because these people are going to come after you if you don't do it. And I think Rachel was going to do it, but it was unfortunate. The timer went out like right then, like during their conversation. It was just bad timing for her.
Yeah, no, it just seemed like it was like, oh no, it's the end now. So like, I gotta do it. So it was just like horrible timing for her to finally be like, I'm the detective. And like, I think Brent was just like, what the heck? Why are you being such an idiot? Like, why are you doing this? And it's like, I feel like Brent said out loud what a lot of people were thinking at the time.
100%.
Like, why did you just do this now? And I think even Billy was like, wait, you were the detective? Like, what? Like, even Billy was confused why she
I know.
stay, you know? It was crazy. Yeah, it was just like awful, awful timing. And I feel so bad for Rachel, but I think it was too late at that point. The game was basically over. There was nothing that was going to happen at this point. The killer definitely does not need to reveal themselves at this point. And I don't know how you're going to figure it out now because the nominations are just all over the place. Like, good luck.
Like, literally with the amount of people in the game, if you waste one round, it's like, it's just no reason to even try.
Your capital is all gone. Your capital is
gone. So Billy changes over gears. Like I said, she was going to put up Brent, changes to Jacob, hoping people accuse Brent. So we're going to go into round 3, and Rachel's like, all right, everybody, stop. I'm the detective. And like Chanel was saying, Brent was like, why? It's too late now. Like, what are you doing?
It was way too far gone.
So Billy's like, all right, well, I know who the detective is now. I'm just about to mist everybody at this point. It's over. So at this point, there's a few people actually trying, like, let me stick with like Rachel. But I mean, one, it's doomed because Billy's sticking with her for like the rest of the time anyway. And 2, everyone's like, all right, screw this. I know I'm not in the bottom because Rachel's going in the bottom. Let's start talking this vote.
Yep.
And that's where everybody just starts prepping for that. So a bunch of events actually go on. And we can try to speed through this real quick because it's a long list.
Yeah.
But, so you got Josh. He's trying to strengthen his bonds with Shireen. And he feels good about her, but she just wants more of a personal connection with him. So she wants to wait till like it's an actual important situation to deem if he's trustworthy or not. You got Katie and Marcelo, where we can actually talk about this. They create an alliance. This is like a snake alliance. Like, these two are like very cutthroat players, and they trust each other, which is crazy. They basically just have this fest where they're like, all right, Katie's like, oh, Brent told me Shireen put my name out, and Marcelo's like, oh yeah, well, Shireen threw Jacob under the bus. Like, we need to get her out. No, so no one, like, they're coming after Shireen like right now.
Totally. I kind of liked that alliance. Like, if it had actually gone through and you have 2 of these like cutthroat players, just like me, like, I feel like they would have made some crazy moves together, like if they had locked that in. So like, I was like seeing this, I was like, yes, this is gonna go buck wild. Like, I am ready for this. So disappointment that this definitely won't work out in the end, but like, I was stoked for it. And I was like, if they pull in like Jacob and Muna, like, this alliance, watch out. This is gonna go off, you know?
So then you have Muna, and she decides with the people up for elimination that she can only realistically vote Spencer. She's saying, I'm good with Rachel. Me and Natalie are from the same state, and I have a final 2 with Jacob. I can't vote any of those people out. So she's like, Spencer has to go at this point. Then we go to Shireen, and she's telling Brent that people think that him and Josh are a duo, to be careful. I thought this was a little interesting because this is the second time this season that Shireen has leaked information to someone. But I mean, it's working. Like, I think people are appreciate it, but I think it's starting to become like a public thing. Like, oh, Shireen's doing this. Like, you got Katie and Marcelo who's on there now, but then you got the Joshes, and now you got the Brent who's like, oh, like, she's helping me out. Like, let me look out for her.
Yeah, so, I think she's using it to a good advantage. In both this like the situation with the initial Josh thing and the LOS, and then like this thing where she's like, hey, watch out, like, people are talking about you, like, be careful. I think a lot of players use that as a like trust, like a act of trust, and so that you can like, that player, you know.
Brent did that, right? Brent, like, I don't it didn't land well, but Brent tried to do that with Katie, right? To say Shireen doesn't trust you. So I think I don't think it's time yet, but I think it will end up not working out for Shireen later.
Yeah, I don't think it will have much pull. I think she was just like, hey, I have this information, I'm just going to offload it now so that you have it or whatever. But I don't think it will gain any traction whatsoever.
Yeah.
Especially when word gets back to Jacob Jones that she's throwing his name out there. That's not going to be good. Not good at all.
No. He's in every alliance, so good luck.
I know. His little edit, what was it? Was it 1,000%, right? That they just kept saying over, like he had a little moment.
100%.
100%, yeah.
I got you. I got you 1,000%.
He was like 100%, 100%, and it was just like over and over again. And I was like, oh yes. Like it was so funny because I'm so shocked that even though Billy put Jacob on the list or on the kill list, like he wasn't the target. Like so great on Jacob, but like so bad on the rest of the players.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, also during this conversation, she tells Brent that she wants to take out Spencer because they don't really mesh or vibe well. And Brent tells her, I mean, as long as it's not Jacob Jones, because I don't want him out, like, it's cool with me. So that's that. Muna comes in later and walks into the convo, but it's cool because Brent and Muna apparently already spoke about this and both agreed we need to take Spencer out. So they're like, all right, that's 3 votes right there. So they're all going to be voting together. Mm-hmm. So next room, you got Josh, Rachel, and Brendan and Billy still trying to figure out who this killer is, even though like the killer's like right there. Like it's over. It's over.
The house. Yeah, they were doing that and also trying to figure out like where to put their votes too at the same time. That one was the most annoying thing ever to watch because it was like, I know you all are gonna throw your votes, and this is just gonna be a crazy circus at the end because you guys are just gonna be like, here you go, like, you know, you knew this was gonna be a mess in the end because it's like. It's playing scared. Everyone's just playing scared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, if I throw it in at this person and they ask me my vote, they're gonna drag me. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, playing scared. So I'm just gonna throw my vote here. And you could tell at the end of the episode when you saw the votes, it was just like, this makes no sense whatsoever that this person voted for this person.
Yeah, because I was watching it and I was like, what do you mean? What? This person threw. And it's like, to me, listen, maybe they needed to do it where, you know, they needed that kick in the butt a little bit of like throwing votes. But like, I was really frustrated because, I don't think it's not because it's Natalie. I think Natalie's just such an easy get for you to like whoever the you is, right? Like for me, if I'm a Sequester player, Natalie is not connected to anyone. And I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah. So it just, you know, learning from episode 1 or round 1 and then seeing now that she went first and then she was gone, you know, like she didn't get a chance to talk. So for me, I'm like, oh, I need to get in good with Natalie, but everyone's kind of like chasing the cool kids table. And I think that's where this is kind of, and that's why I was just getting a little frustrated again, because I was like, no, you can't keep like playing Muna's game and Jacob's game and even Katie's game at a certain point, right? But like, and Brent's game a little bit, although like, I think they're not really Brent fans anyway, except Josh. But so I think it's like you can't play these 3 people's game and like expect you to like kind of get, you know, ahead or get like actually win at least. So that's where so it was a little frustrating and I hope that they get it together after this because like throwing votes isn't it. Like don't go on Sequester if you're scared to be dragged. Like that's literally the point of Sequester.
You're gonna get dragged eventually. And at the same time, I think it's okay to play their games, but only when it's benefiting you, right?
Exactly.
Like, I feel like don't try to get in with the cool kids. Just make sure you're cool with the cool kids.
And I was going to bring this up later, but like this is a perfect time to do it now. Like if it wasn't for this new twist where you can like reveal 3 people's votes, like this would be like a very straightforward season almost. Like even the first vote. Like, imagine if we didn't have that moment with Josh being able to like reveal who voted him. That would be like literally everyone taking the easy vote, taking Josh out. He would have pulled Katie, and then who knows who would have left at that point. And like we almost had the same thing here, where like Natalie was unsure like who voted her. She probably would have someone like not like she wouldn't have taken Katie. I think she would have took someone who didn't make a promise to her. You know, so. people need to start realizing like you can't, like, this isn't like the other season. Like, you really need to start adapting to the new meta of the game.
Yeah, you're going in. Eventually you're gonna go in at this point, because you're gonna have to play the game that gets you the furthest, and that's not you keeping promises all the time, because there's no way you can always keep your promises, or else you're just gonna have these big players in the game the whole time. You're gonna have to face them eventually. You're gonna have to battle them eventually. Like, I mean, you can probably work it a few times if you don't think you're gonna be picked, but like, eventually we're getting down to less players. You're gonna be picked eventually if you're picking 3 votes. You know what I mean? You're gonna get down to 6. You have a 50% chance. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And this is how Hunter played last time. So like, and listen, he won, right? It's great, but it's crazy because I guess it worked for Brent technically, but like the fallout, right? Like, because he knew his vote was going to get revealed, it helped him with Josh, but like it really hurt him with kind of everyone else. So that's why, again, back to this point, like I just feel like you need to be either a little bit more tactical, right? Like if you're kind of like thinking 5 steps in advance, or just vote the way you should vote. Like it's one or two, and I feel like they're kind of like into boats, and I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, there's so little people in this game. You know, when you play like a game or whatever, and you're down to, when you start getting down to like those last few players, like there's no like, oh no, I'm not working with this person or whatever. Like it's out there, right? So right from the beginning, everything has been out there. You have this twist going on. There's no floating in this game. You cannot be afloat. Like you literally are playing the entire time. So play it. There's no playing scared. Actually, playing scared might screw you in the end.
Yeah.
Which it almost did for Billy. You know.
And Jay West, as part of jury, is not going to vote for someone scared. Katie's not going to vote. Let's say like they don't come 100%. Back. Right? So even to me, it's like jury isn't even going to vote for you. So like, who are you helping, right? By getting that far? Like the only person, like I said, like this kind of tactic worked is Billy, because somehow Billy didn't get dragged into the battle match, which I was like, how?
Well, did Billy promise Natalie? Okay, so that's an interesting one, because
we'll get into that. But
sorry, but anyway, it was just fascinating.
Yeah, totally.
So just to close out this round, because this was the end of the round, basically everyone in that little circle was just saying how they don't want to put Jacob in. And Brendan actually made a really good point that he was like, I think people are going to start looking at me if a person like Jacob is gone. So I'm just using him as a shield for now, and I just need him here for like a while. And then Rachel and Muna just have a little chit chat. They both agree we need to target Spencer, and that's that. So for the final guess, after speaking to a group of people who were trying to figure out who the killer was, that Billy was in there. Rachel's final guess was Marcelo due to snakish behavior. Marcelo and Katie were upstairs, like they were making the alliance like we talked about earlier. So she puts up Marcelo, incorrect, and now Rachel is down in the bottom with Jacob, Spencer, and Natalie. Those are the 4 people who are up for elimination.
Snakish behavior. Just being himself.
And the funny thing with this is Rachel accuses Josh and Brent to be the killer after the challenge is over.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And she's like, why didn't she clearly working together?
And I didn't understand why she didn't pick Brent, like, because she was going to, right, like in the middle of the round, or pick someone else that was in Marcelo.
2 rounds in a row. Yeah.
And then she all of a sudden moves, and then, which I was a little like, really, because Rachel says she's confident she won't get voted out, so it doesn't even matter. And I was like, oh, what? Like, you got 3 votes. Like, I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it was kind of like Brent and Josh kind of like tried to do like this little damage control thing where like Brent kind of like had like a speech. It was a little dragged out. And then I don't know if you guys saw the clip, but Muna posted it. She was in the back like, huh? Like,
I saw that.
So I every time I do this, I watch the episode the night of, and then I rewatch it. And I didn't notice the first time around, but then the second time around, I just saw her in the back being like, And I was just like, oh my God, that's so funny. And I didn't notice it until after her reaction was so good.
And Josh played that also really well. I know it was again a little thing, but like that's what you're supposed to do, right? Like Josh was like joking and was like, well, I'm safe for this round, so like it's fine, let me like joke about it. And then like Brent again, so intense, right? Like being himself, that's who he is, fine. But like he was like getting up, like, you know, this like politician speech, and we're just like, sure, but like calm down, like, you know, it's like it doesn't matter, Rachel's going in, you just have to be like, Josh, like I would have said something funny, like I said, it's you and me now for real, you know, or something silly, instead of, or being like, or I would have made a joke about like, well, I'm on Rob Has a Podcast, but I don't like I don't like, you know, the fans, or, you know, say something like funny like that. But and I think that again would have made him a little bit more relatable instead of like so like just so abrasive.
Yeah,
totally. And I just, as the round finishes or whatever, it's just crazy to me. I watched the whole episode and Billy's name didn't come up one time. Nothing, not even detective, nothing, not one time. That is absolutely wild. Like, kudos to you, Billy. Like, killed it.
Yeah, that, wow, perfection.
What is it? Chef's kiss? Like,
Now, very interesting move here from Jacob. Right when the round starts, Jacob tells Marcelo, Rachel, and Billy that he's going to get people to vote Spencer, but if Katie asks, to lie to her and tell her it's Natalie. Which is funny because we're going to see later that Katie has a lot of trust in Jacob Jones.
Yeah.
So he's just like, I'm going to get these other people to lie to you. So then we have Natalie and Spencer. This is just like everyone's throwing everyone around.
Yeah.
Natalie and Spencer try to get the votes on Jacob for a little bit to Katie and Brent, but Katie doesn't want to do that. She straight up says, yeah, I'm not doing that. And then you go over here, then Jake and Marcelo walking in the conversation. They're like, that was sketchy. Like, what's going on here? And then you got Brent and Katie telling them, oh, yeah, we were lying to them. We're going to just do Spencer. And like, there was just a lot of people throwing each other under the bus. So I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. But this is like a he said, she said at this point. And it was like you got Natalie over here is begging to Billy, Muna, Shireen, Brendan that not to vote her in and to do Jacob. And Muna's like, nah, I can't do that, but I can vote in Spencer. And then Muna tells Jacob here that Natalie and Spencer are throwing his name around. And Jacob pulls Spencer aside to make a fake plan to throw Natalie's name around. And Jacob... his name was never really an option, but he pretends it was just to expose it to Spencer. So I thought that was a good little strategy there.
Yeah,
he did really good there. As soon as he went up to with Luna or whoever he was talking to, and he was like, listen, if Katie asks, say Natalie. I think that was really smart because it's like diffusing the situation, because everyone knows that Spencer is allies with Katie, right?
Yes.
So it's like, if they think, it's like taking them off the scent, right? If they think it's Natalie, then they're not going to try to campaign
push his
hard.
name. Yeah,
exactly. They're not going to campaign as hard because they're like, oh, it's just Natalie, so we'll just say that. And I mean, if some votes get thrown Natalie's way, that's fine. Because it's still not Jacob, right? So I think that was really smart move, like diffusing the situation that way and like taking it off the scent for him as well. And it works out well for Muna or whoever he told as well. So I think that was really, really smart.
Yeah, and I wish for Natalie, she like split off from Spencer, right? Like, I don't think Jacob was like walking with anyone that he was nominated with. So, to me, it's like even if, let's say, you and Spencer are working together, like, why like be so stuck with him? Because folks are going to be lying to both of you or one of you, right? And you're not going to know because you're always together. So to me, I really felt like, and she tweeted about why she voted for Rachel, but I just thought it was really interesting because I think she could have done a little bit more Like, you know, she could have said, like, these are two guys, like, why are we, you know, voting for the women here? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, they are, you know, like, Spencer is the stronger threat. Look at how tall he is. Like, do you want to go against him in a physical? Because they kept bringing up physical competitions, even though like Sequester's physical like is so different, and like everyone can do it, which is what's great. So that's why to me it's like I would just be pushing that hard.
Yeah, exactly. And even I'm so surprised she put it on Rachel too, because like it's like, what do you have to lose if you put it on Spencer? He's not coming for you. He knows you were a nominee and he's a nominee. So like, let me just throw it wherever, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's not coming for you. He's going to come for people who are not nominees. Because they're not trying to, like, you're trying to save your butt. So that makes sense going that way. But yeah, I think she could. And then also when people are coming to her and asking her who to throw the votes on, I feel like she changed her mind like so many times who to throw the votes on. So it was like, I think if she had just like said a sound like, hey, do it on Spencer or whatever, or like just like talked around and like maybe eventually talked to Jacob and Muna or whatever, and they're like, listen, like this is the plan. It looks like it's weighing this way. Like maybe she could have pushed for that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, and everyone just kept saying, I'm voting where everyone else is voting. And I was like, no, what? Okay, cool. Like, give me some names. Like, no. Because they were just like, I'm voting where the house is. I was like, what is this, Big Brother? Like, because usually in Sequester, folks are just a little bit more cutthroat. But I was just like, okay, that's cute. But like, to me, she needed to push more, which may, like, again, like we said, I don't think that's her personality. But then, like, how do you get someone that is that personality to be your ally or your mouthpiece?
Yeah, totally.
Because I like get someone like Brent to be like, hey, blah blah blah, you know, like be empathetic and stroke the ego. Everyone loves when you tell them how great they are, especially this like group. So that's why to me it's like there could have been ways, and she comes off as genuine. Like I don't think she comes off as fake, so I think it could have been possible.
Yeah, totally.
And something interesting I forgot to say that Jacob does here is when they're leaving the room, he like puts this little jab in where he's like, yeah, just because I know that, like, you know, like I heard you were throwing my name out there, and Spencer's like, oh no, it wasn't me. So, you know, like Jacob moves like a mob boss. It's very funny. Yeah.
So smooth operator.
So you got Rachel, and she's asking Katie, Billy, Brendan to vote Spencer. And Katie, for like, I think this is like the third time during this round, tells someone, no, I'm not doing Spencer.
Yeah.
I can do Natalie. Like Katie, for someone who's trying to make it seem like they're not so close, really like just like showing like where that loyalty is there. Yeah. So I thought that was something interesting. And Brendan was actually also during this round gathering info and just letting people know what was being said just so he doesn't get pulled in. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I think that's good intel to pass around. Yeah, like I can see where Katie's coming from, because like even in her confessional, she was like, listen, I did Spencer dirty when we played that like mini together, and I'm just trying to show him that I'm like super loyal. So I can totally understand that. And I think at this point, like he's probably the only ally she has at this point that she can trust. So I think that's totally fair with her leaning that way. And I think at the time, I don't think it hurt her at all to go that way either, because people know that she's like with him. So I think it made sense.
And no one was holding that against her either. No. Which it's great for her too, where I think folks kind of were like, okay, yeah, I get it, and kind of moved on.
Yeah, because people were saying, I can't do Jacob, but they weren't holding that against Muna. Like,
I know. Which again, like, someone said this in the chat, but it's like the starstruckness, right? Like with Muna and but like to me, I get it, but like at some point, like you have to start playing the game, and like to me it was just crazy that Jacob, like, and all props to Muna, to Jacob and Marcelo, right, who were able to pull this off. But like he's on the block and didn't go like home or at least get eliminated and into the battle match is wild.
Oh man, we'll talk about that later.
Mhm.
I have many thoughts.
Yeah.
Many
We're gonna
thoughts.
talk about it, trust me.
Yeah.
So just to fast forward a little bit, Marcelo lies to Natalie saying that he's hearing people throw her name when in reality he kickstarted the movement. And Natalie believes him for the time's sake because she's like, all right, if you say you're gonna do this, I'm gonna trust you. I gotta get out of here.
Mhm.
Um, so then you got Billy who promises Natalie that she's voting Spencer and tells her to play harder next round. Now, there's two errors here. One, she promises when she really shouldn't. Like I've noticed this
Mhm.
season, you really should be telling, like keeping it real to a degree, but like in the soft way where like people don't feel icky about it. But the second issue, which to me, like this is my language where I'm like, if someone says play harder, like I think that's almost like good like advice for me, like if it was me, because I wouldn't take offense to that. I'd be like, oh cool, like so like this person's trying to help me.
Yeah.
But the way Natalie took it, which is completely fine, because every person's different, she kind of got assaulted by it, and she was like, dang, like I thought I was doing fine, I can't make bonds the way you are, like I'm just being myself. So she didn't like that at all, and she was pissed off by it.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think I'd be pissed off too because you're basically saying my game is shit.
Mhm.
And you need to step it up, which I mean, Billy's not wrong in that scenario, but at the same time, like it probably hurt her feelings. And if she goes down and then comes back up, that she might hold that against Billy. Not now she's already holding the vote against Billy at the same time. I think Billy played this round so perfectly up until this
Yeah.
exact point because her throwing that vote made no sense to me whatsoever. I don't understand why you threw it. You could have just been to Natalie like you could have saved yourself from that because if Natalie didn't go in, you're good. If Natalie goes in, you're good, right? Because if Natalie doesn't go in and it's Spencer, what does Spencer care about
Yeah.
Billy at that point? I think from the conversation that he had with Shireen and Rachel and Muna, like it seemed like he was going to drag one of those three in because I think he thought he was a better physical threat
Yes.
to the three of them. And Billy never came up in that scenario. So I think Billy would have been safe actually throwing it on Spencer over Natalie. Like, I mean, Billy was fine in the end, but I think strategically, like it would have worked better because she actually, at the point that she promised it, it's like, now I actually have to do this because I promised
Exactly.
someone this and it will come to bite me back later. We'll have to see later if she can like work her
Mhm.
way out of that by working with Natalie in the end, but that might come back to bite her later.
I think something that she should have considered doing was exactly what she did with Josh, which is I would have been like, yeah, like this person is throwing your name out. You need to go fix it. And I think she would have respected it.
Yeah, totally.
In that case, I don't think well, one, I don't think she would have asked for her vote, but even if she did, I don't think she would have asked to reveal her vote during the like the
No.
dragging portion of it. I don't think she
No.
would have.
Yeah, because you got that trust now, right? Like with
Mm-hmm,
like, hey, you gave me this information and
mm-hmm.
all that. So I think she would have been totally fine in that scenario. But it's like you promised me and you broke
Yeah.
it, you
And
know?
that's where I think Natalie, maybe at that point, like maybe we're reading too much into it, but right at that point, I'm assuming Natalie must have realized her and Billy aren't as close as she thought they were, maybe, right? Or like the way someone says it, right? Intent versus impact, where the way it landed, like you need to play harder. I think like it would have been so different if Natalie had a little bit more time to build a relationship with Billy, but they don't and they haven't yet. So I think it's a little bit of that also that almost sat on her chest.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the vote, I think, was just like she was just like, this freaking
What
person, like
is going
why?
on? Yeah, like
Yeah,
what is this? What is this madness that is going on?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was interesting because actually now Natalie is the only person, rightfully so, that has some issue with the killer. But like, not that Natalie knows who the killer is, but I also thought that was an interesting piece.
So, going to the next room, and this was actually, I would say, it's a successful move from Brendan and Brent, where they pull Spencer aside and they let him know that Rachel is throwing his name out on the bus and they do it just to stay in his good graces because I think they believe Spencer's leaving. And I think they just don't want to be pulled in. So they're like, all right, well, if we tell him this, we're the first people to tell him this. He's not going to want to drag us out. Spencer is not happy. I think he just pulls the first person he sees. I think he's making his way to Rachel, but he still needs to gather votes. So I think Moon is like the first person he probably sees. I don't know. And he asks her who she's voting for, and she tells him she isn't voting Jacob, and Spencer is trying to use like this little guilt tactic. It was very Vanessa Russo-y, in my opinion, where like because I don't have issue with the way he handled the first half, where he was like, oh, like you exiled me, I'm in the bottom again, now you're telling me you can't do this and that. I thought that was actually a really good strategy here. And I think Muna was actually kind of scared to vote him at one point because I think she was trying to avoid getting dragged, but that was the first half of his approach. And yeah, how do you guys feel about that one?
I don't think it worked with Muna. Here's where it didn't work out, I think, in this situation. Very good tactic. What he brought up made a lot of sense. Like, you exiled me, like, we're not on good terms here. Listen, if you don't throw your vote on me, like, maybe we can build this up, maybe you can work together and whatever. But I think he put it in, and I think she was not reciprocating it, and he kind of just moved on from there and never really gave her a chance to actually absorb the information and actually chat it out. Because knowing Muna's very very much like Shireen in the sense that it's connections, right? So it's like, talk to me, get down on my level, let's talk this out, let's see if we can actually work together. But I think because of the moment, and he was just like super frustrated that he was even up or whatever, he was just like throwing that the tactic out there, which I think would have worked if he actually sat down and like chatted with her about it and got on her level. But it was just like really quick and like, how dare you not do this? I'm moving on. It seems like you don't want to work with me. And he kind of just moved on. And I don't think she responded well to that at all. And she's like, well, for sure, I'm voting for you now. Because you didn't even give me the time to absorb any of this before you moved on.
Wait, which is the same brash behavior that kind of started this whole thing, I feel like. So yeah, I hear you.
It just like the Brent situation. I really feel like good idea, bad execution.
Yes.
I agree with that. So Spencer goes into the downstairs room, and he's confronting Rachel since Brent and Brendan told him that she's throwing his name out. He doesn't name drop them, so I would say that's a successful move from those two. And he does this in front of Shireen and Marcelo, and she denies, despite it being true, but she denies it. As she should. And he threatens to pull someone who he can physically beat in the competition. Now, I don't know if he was like making a jab at them, because he did say this like in front of Brendan and Brent as well. But regardless if it was or not, at the end of the day, Rachel and Shireen don't like the way that it came across, and it felt like it was almost like a threat, and they didn't like that. So they don't like him anymore, and that's how that interaction went.
Yeah. That whole interaction was so uncomfortable for me, and I don't know if you guys felt that too. Again, I get it. It's a very high intensity situation. There's a lot going on. I would be really upset if I was put up too. But in this case, and for good social strategy here, you kind of, if you've talked to everyone, you kind of figure out how they are at this point. So that from Rachel's interaction with Brent that she doesn't like people. Whatever. Shireen is very chill, and the whole first round she was just chilling on the couch chatting with people. Like, these two are not gonna like abrasive play or any threats or anything like that. I think if he came to them and just like was again like the Muna situation and was just like, listen, I really want to stay, I really want to work with you, like let's do this, whatever, and he was just like very genuine and like that, I think he had a better chance in that situation. But now you've threatened three people because you're like, I'm going to drag you in if you don't do this, and basically I'm going to take in the most unathletic person
Yeah, which was such a like shitty thing to say.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, well, he basically said the least physical threat, which is like, are you saying that we're the least physical threat? 'Cause I would be the same way voting how they did, because I'd be like, oh, oop, you did not just come for me. I don't care what you say at this point. I'm voting for you, which they did, and I'm like,
and this is where that respect piece comes in again, because to me, again, like, they have just as much vote. Their vote counts just as much as anyone else does. So why do you think this is an okay thing to speak to, well, anyone, but especially them that way? Because they're already feeling on the outs. Rachel, is probably feeling some kind of way because she's a detective and, like wasn't successful in her job or her role. So like, to me, you have to almost build the bridge one with like, hey, Rachel, oh, that was crazy. I couldn't have even figured it out. What are you thinking? I think Rachel would have really spoken to him, because Rachel's so unassuming, and with Spencer especially, I think. So it was really frustrating for me to watch that, because I was just like, there's just no reason to do this. Like, because we see him be normal with other people. I think it was that. With Brent, at least I know that he's just balls to the walls with everyone. But like here, I'm almost seeing the switch up, and I'm not into it.
Yeah, like it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't know how much time they had in the round or whatever, and like how he was probably just like flustered and whatever. But it was just like when they flipped over to Shireen's like confessional, and she was just like learn some like social gameplay or like whatever she said. I was like, yeah, like you like that wrecked it for you right there. Like I'm so sorry, but like that. And even if he like made it through, you think any of them are gonna want to work with you after that? And they're gonna go around and tell everyone what just happened.
Like I feel like there's a specific way. Like no one likes to hear their name get called out, but it's you have to handle it in a certain way where like you want people to feel bad for you. You want better sympathy, and then B. Like he already formulated the plan with Brendan and Brent that Natalie and Jacob, that Natalie was going to be the new name to push out. If you want people to vote Natalie, you gotta have them on your side. You saw, for example, when Jacob allegedly heard that his name was getting put out, he kept calm and he pulled you, and then he did his thing. It was like a finesse. It was a miss. Where Spencer, he came in. And I feel like he went from 0 to 100 and he just never came down. So like, you gotta stay calm. You gotta be, you gotta be chill guy. You don't want to be known as the hothead that will do very impulsive things, because no one's going to want to work with you at that point.
100%.
But that was what happened over there. We get a quick little glimpse from Josh, and he says that he feel like he doesn't owe Spencer his vote because he didn't vote with him during his elimination, so he can do whatever he wants. Muna later in the day or later this round tries to use his emotions on Spencer just in case he gets eliminated, so she doesn't get pulled in, because she feels like he's going to pull her in at this point. So she tries to do this emotional tactic, and I think to a degree it was working. I think he was willing to work with her again. But the issue was they never really were ever going to get on the same page, because he was like, all right, then can you vote Natalie? She was like, no, because I am from the same state as her and we bonded over that. He's like, all right, well, you can't do Jacob because you work with him. You can't do Natalie and you're cool with Rachel. So there only leaves one, So at that point, that was just like almost like there's never going to be like a bond there, in my opinion. And it's like Muna's one of those personalities, like she keeps it 100, and I can respect that. She keeps it 100. She will tell you how it is. She doesn't really lie as much. I've noticed that. So like honestly, that I get the gesture, but I don't think that there was no space to really maneuver in that situation right there.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, they're from the chat that they had with like Muna and Spencer, like it seemed like she probably wouldn't work with him or whatever. At the same time, again, if you're going to make it out of this round, you don't want to be seen as the person who's like throwing out all these threats. So it's like, listen, if you don't want to if you don't want to like work with me, like he could kind of spin that later on, right? But that's only if he had a decent conversation with her, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So round is over. And we finally go to the vault ceremony. I said vault ceremony. We finally get to the elimination. Spencer, everyone I think almost thinks Spencer's going home. I thought Spencer was going home. Like,
Me too.
My jaw dropped. I was like, okay. And the vote is 5-4 to 3. With Natalie getting voted in. I think this is. I don't know who you want to give credit to. Like, do you want to give us to Katie? Like, I don't know.
For this flip of votes?
Yeah, like I gotta see who voted where again. But like it was literally one vote. Like, I mean, there was the 3 people who threw their votes on Rachel. But I was shocked. I was surprised.
Honestly, I throw this to no one.
I
throw this to people playing scared.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw it on Natalie because if Natalie goes down, then I'm going to be dried. I don't want to throw it on Spencer because Spencer's 6'4" and could kick my butt in a physical competition. So I don't want to throw it on him. So, like, if I remember correctly, what the votes were, the 5 were on Natalie were Jacob. It was like
Billy.
Jacob, Billy, Katie, Rachel. I think Rachel was
Spencer.
I forget who the other 2 were.
Oh, was it Josh?
Josh
and
Josh voted for Rachel.
Yeah,
you're right.
Rachel,
oh
the 3 for Rachel were Brent, Josh, and Brendan.
Okay.
For the 3 for Rachel. But I was just like, I was so surprised to see Jacob's vote on Natalie.
Me too.
I was like, why?
He got all these people to vote Spencer, and then he just flipped over. I was
like, wow. I don't remember who I have to remember like who's all in the house again, but it was just like, what the? Why?
Like maybe in fairness, I mean, he has some sort of connection with Spencer where he doesn't with Natalie, so maybe he wanted to. I think he was under the impression that Spencer was going, so he voted Natalie.
Yeah,
so like,
to throw the freaking vote.
He could be like, "Who's your vote?" Oh yeah, I kept my word. I voted Natalie. So
it was Brendan. It was Brendan, Natalie, and Josh. Josh was
for Rachel.
Yeah. So Brent must have thrown on Natalie then,
and Shireen too. Then
no, Shireen was on Spencer.
Oh my god, I keep forgetting.
Yeah, because we know for sure 3 of the votes were Shireen, Muna, and Rachel.
Oh, thanks, Joseph. Yeah,
I was like, Natalie
Natalie was Spencer, Brent.
Spencer. Yes.
Yeah, Spencer, Brent, Billy, Jacob, and Katie.
Okay.
Yeah, which there it is. Again, like the only votes here, like everyone else, meh, but like Billy and Jacob, I think was interesting.
I think they messed up there. They probably should have gotten rid of Spencer when they could at this point, because it might be hard later to get him out, depending on we don't know what the competitions are. We have no idea what's coming up. And like the competition that was played, it was kind of a physical competition, but it wasn't like he had an advantage over someone else.
I want folks to remember, like, if this is your first time watching Sequester, like, physical competitions aren't like Big Brother physical competitions, right? Like, the funniest and the most physical, which I'm sure I'm wrong, is, was like you have to gather a bunch of balloons and run them over to the other side. Running back and forth. Yeah. And I can't remember like a super, or like you have to melt ice with your body. Like to me, that's like Sequester physical. So it was really interesting where I'm like, have you seen Sequester? Like, it's more like the Big Brother silly competitions, right? Where you're like, it's a crapshoot. I don't know who's going to win. Like to me, it's more of those competitions, and which is why I agree with Brent that I just don't want to go in. But like the physical competition thing was super weird to me, and I think like they were just bringing in trauma from like Big Brother, because I think Big Brother had just started when this was they went into Sequester.
It was towards the end of the season, because I remember
so that's what I'm saying. So to me, like I was just like very like, to me, I'm like, if you watch Sequester, like, that like it's it's more just like a crapshoot, and you're just not gonna know what competition you have. Like, open your eyes when it's the minute, is over kind of competitions, like, which is fine. Like, I think that's cute, and that's part of Sequester, but like, yeah, I just, it was just weird, and I didn't understand it. Like, to me, vote Jacob out. But
oh yeah, the fact that Jacob got 0 votes in this scenario, like, it's a good thing that they can't see those votes, because if I had seen that Jacob got 0 votes, it's like, he is very dangerous.
Exactly.
Out of all of this mess that happened, no one even threw a vote on him. Not a single vote. Like, because why did the 3 throw it on Rachel? You could have thrown one on Jacob, and like none the wiser.
Like, I feel, and this is how I feel. I was going to say this for the tier list. I feel like Jacob is in a spot where he's very connected, but if I'm going to give my honest opinion, I feel like people at this point are looking at him like a shield more than like an actual like threat. Like, I think that like he's Jacob, he's the 2-time winner, that's the persona. So he was coming in with this threat already. So I think people, especially Brendan, for example, are trying to clinch on to him, and they're like, all right, we can ride this out for as long as possible. And when it comes down to all the big, like, loud personalities, he can just go, and then we could just do this thing,
Yeah, exactly.
But it's very interesting, because I like what Jacob says happens, and if you're with Jacob, he's not going to control the vote. He's the control of information right now. So it's like, if you're conjoined to that for a very long time, and then you're the one to cut him later, that's huge brownie points, and then the game's wide open again. I think Marcelo almost, although there are final 2, or Katie almost, like, you saw that bond was being created, like, later down the road. If Jacob goes, like, who knows if like a Marcelo and Katie, even if she comes back, that's a well-connected duo, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, Jacob Jones, it's very interesting to see how his movement's going right now. Like, he's almost like this tank in the game. And he's in a very dominant position. I'm just very curious to see how long that actually lasts before people take a shot at him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like, and Joseph said in the chat too about Jacob being a shield, which I agree for the big players. I'm just wondering for the Billies and the Joshes that can take a shot at him, like, why not? Like, those are the ones that I'm confused about, because to me, he's in their way more than he is like for the big he's a shield for half the house, but like for the other half, he's actually in the way. But maybe that's what he's so good at, right? Like, making you feel like, I'm the big shield, but I'm with you, so we're good. So good for him.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, to be fair, with a person like Josh, he just came off of a very big night. And no one's going to forget that. Like, if he makes a that's a huge talking point, first of all. Second of all, he has an LOS in his pocket. So if he ever gets thrown in a bomb, he's like, you can't do that. So he necessarily doesn't have to really play super hard strategy-wise. Like, all he has to do is just, like, make friends at this point. Like, no one's targeting him. So, I mean, that's how I feel with that there. So real quick, Natalie exposes Billy, Katie, and Marcelo's vote, because those are the people specifically that she felt made like the biggest promises to her, and she wanted to find out what was going on with that. She finds out that Billy and Katie voted her, but Marcelo voted Spencer. She is very hurt by Billy lying to her, primarily. Calls her out in front of everyone. She's like, "Oh, you want me to play big? Like, I'll play big now. I'm coming for you if I come back into the house." But she drags Katie, and Katie tries to do that little thing again where, like, she's fighting for her life, as she should. I mean, but like, it doesn't work. And I was like, "Nah, not this time." And she challenges her, and Natalie wins. And Katie lost, but that was it was a very interesting little interaction there, just to see how Marcelo voted Spencer, like Jacob originally said, but then Jacob didn't. It's that whole vote. Like, I'm wondering how this round is really going to, like, set the foundation for the rest of the game, because I think a lot of people are like, dang, like, I'm not as close with people that I thought I was.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big mess. And now that I think about, like, the drag for the battle match, I was really confused why she had pulled in Natalie, or sorry, not Natalie, she had pulled in Katie and not Billy. But now that I think about it, I think Katie was the right choice, because if she didn't pull in Billy or whatever, and she makes it, she comes back to the house and she's like, Billy, you owe me now, because you went back on your word to save me. And I think let's work together now. And like, it's water under the bridge. Let's work together now. I totally forgive you, whatever. And I think at that point, if she picked Billy or Katie, like those two are both pretty good social players and like good physical threats. So it's like either way, like I think she was like gonna have a tough competition. But I think she has more leverage with someone like Billy. So I think that actually made sense for her to drag Katie, now that I think about it a little bit more.
Yeah. Now hearing y'all talk it out, I hear you now, because I even through this podcast I wasn't necessarily on the same page as you, but yeah, now I okay, fine. Like I think I'm also wondering, which is so hard, because I think then why call out Billy so publicly, right? Because to me, then like they're now going, unless again, like what you said, right, Chanel, is because like on the low we'll be working together, but for everyone else we'll look as like the people going against each other. So like maybe, yeah, but I'm still not 100% convinced, but I think I'm more into that space, because for me, then like why, then why bring in Katie? Isn't there anyone else that you could have brought in?
Really, no, because it's like if you think of the other people that had voted for her and she'd find out, like Spencer, why pull in Spencer?
No, yeah,
Because you're both nominees. Like I don't think she would have checked Jacob's vote. Like everyone else, I don't think she would have checked anyone else that voted for her. So like I think it for the two that she picked. And I don't maybe Katie was just already like, fighting already, and she knew that she was a big threat. So it's like, well, why don't I just take out a big threat? Well, I can. And then again, publicly showing Billy's vote makes her look really, really bad. To everyone, makes her feel worse about doing it, because everyone knows now that she's like been shady like this, right? So
and I was talking to Dylan on Twitter about this actually yesterday. With this new like vote reveal twist, it really, I'm not going to say it hinders gameplay, but like you have to move a certain way now. Like you can't really lie as frequently as you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like in retrospect, yeah, you can pull people, but like if you have two guaranteed people who you voted, it's like I could try to do 50-50 and hope that I'm dragging someone that voted me versus, oh, I know this person voted me, and it's like they're not really working with me, so like what do I have to lose? You know? And I think in her mind, she saw the success of Josh's whole thing that he did last week. And
that's
like, all right,
a big one. Yeah.
No one wants to like target Josh. I mean, well, people are still looking at him and Brent as a duo, but they're like, oh, this worked out for Josh. Let me try this. Because like if you show your dominance with this thing, people aren't going to want to challenge you. They're like, oh, this person can win challenges. They're not afraid to drag big players. I don't want any part of that. I need to work with this person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Maybe the Josh thing gives her more social capital actually than playing like Josh, right? As maybe that's true. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense now to me.
Even so, if she gets back in the house, people aren't going to be like, oh shoot, I need to worry about Natalie now. She literally publicly declared war on Billy. No one's ever going to wonder who's Natalie targeting. Oh yeah, she said she's targeting Billy. All right, cool. I don't need to worry about that. Someone's got to do it. I'm not doing it. So I think that was her motive there. And I mean, it works if she gets Billy out eventually, but like I feel like the longer Billy's in the game and not in the power, like she's not the one taking someone out, like this is successful for Natalie because no one's ever going to question who Natalie's targeting now. They're always going to know it's Billy. And as long as Billy doesn't drag her, like what's there to worry, So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So that's the episode there. Real quick, we're gonna open up the tier list maker and see if we have any adjustments for this week. And let me add right there. So last week we had Jacob Jones at S tier. How do we feel about Jacob this week?
I think he's still there. The fact that he went up and he didn't get a single vote.
Yeah.
Ultimate S tier.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, I do agree S tier. I feel like there's potential for this to actually start dropping in incoming weeks.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people starting to air out his laundry now. They're like, oh yeah, he's good with Muna. Oh yeah, him and Marcelo are like this now. Like that was supposed to be a secret. Like people know that now, shockingly. So I think he's an S tier going into next week. But like 3 rounds from now, I'm not sure if that's actually going to still be the same thing. So I'm very curious.
Yeah, this is where I'm hoping like a Brent or even a Natalie maybe or those two really and maybe Brendan, but I don't think so, can like suss this out and like you don't need to announce it necessarily, but I think like at least suss it out and know that like I need to be careful about how I'm now sharing information. So I like if that doesn't happen, I think that will again help Jacob and Muna a lot.
Okay.
Exactly.
So next you got Muna, just like you were even talking about. How do we feel about Muna's game? Is she still at A tier? Is she moving up? Is she moving down? What's going on with her?
I think she's exactly in the same spot that she was in last time. I don't think it's changed at all. I think she's still in a good spot, but I don't like she doesn't have alliances with every single. Jacob even has an alliance. Like not an alliance, but like a good understanding with even Spencer, which is like so left field because Spencer's working with another side. Whereas Muna, like this interaction with Spencer is probably definitely not even gonna try to work with Spencer whatsoever. But I don't know, that could change. So I think right now she's still at an A. Like I still think she's in a good spot, but definitely not an S just yet.
Yeah, with Katie being gone, it helps. Like it'll free him up. So I agree. I think that is almost what maybe Muna will capitalize on. But I think the biggest Achilles heel is that Jacob. Oh yeah, Bran, you just said it. But Jacob doesn't have Muna as his number one, and Muna has Jacob, and that's exactly to me what changes tiers for them.
Yeah.
Okay. How about Billy?
Killed it.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
I'm thinking A still, but if you guys have counters,
I want to keep her A, but I'm trying to debate if I want to move her above Muna because it's like I feel like
after that round,
a great position. I think Natalie's the only one targeting her, and I feel like that's going to be an issue. But until it'd have to wait until next week because, like I said, this is going into the next episode. I feel like unless Natalie has like a ride or die or true alliance, I don't really think that that's such an issue.
It won't catch traction.
Yeah,
exactly. Again, like Natalie just doesn't have enough people.
Yeah.
And Muna's thing with Spencer, maybe that's also another reason we can move her a little lower compared to last episode as well.
Agreed. Now, how do we feel about Brendan?
He was the silent killer here, right?
Yeah.
Like, where that's why I was almost like, oh, if we're moving Billy up, like, how do I feel about Brendan? I think he can stay. Because I don't know if he's over Muna. That's like what I'm debating, basically. I don't think
he is.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's set up well enough for it. But like, I do want to give him his props this episode where he was a little bit more silent compared to last week's like fun gifts that we got from him and all of that stuff. But I do think that he set himself up really well, and like I want to give him that credit too.
What do you mean? He said, what did he say? What did he keep saying in the episode?
Jabronis?
Yeah,
Jabroni. Jabroni.
Not me forgetting Jabroni.
Come on.
Oh my god. Yeah. And that felt really forced. Maybe that's why I didn't like. I was like,
it came up a couple of times,
right? And I was like, "Is production telling you to say this? Like, this is weird."
What's that funny thing you said?
Like this, like let's that 70s show type persona.
Yeah.
Like I think he has the potential to be playing like one of the best games in the house. Like I know Marcelo says he's the rat player. Like I think Brendan's the rat player. Like,
oh yeah, I mean he got the edit right.
yeah, like,
100%.
he's the one that's like really putting all the information out there, and no one's like throwing him under the bus. The only thing that's holding him back is he doesn't really have like that person. You know,
yeah.
He's kind of still a solo player. So until he gets that person, I can't put him any higher. But yeah. So Shireen, I'm not gonna lie. I think I want to move her down.
I was gonna say that.
I'm gonna keep her still high B though, because
I
think she has good relationships with people. I just don't think there was much game movement there, and the only reason I'm gonna keep her high B is because of the badass like interaction she had with Spencer and how she kind of held her ground there, so people know not to like mess with her. So I'm gonna keep her there, but like really there wasn't too much movement with her this episode, but people still really trust her. Like Rachel told her that she was the detective. Josh is like, I want you to be my number one, like, so she hasn't, but like nothing, there's no real traction to her game I think this episode, because I feel like it was the exact same as before.
I'd also I would move her down in addition, not like because in addition to that is because like she had she was basically detective number 2 and had detective number 1 almost, I want to say, where Rachel was kind of listening to her, which like keeps her at a high B and like very wrong calls. So that's why I agree with y'all. I just wanted to add that also for her.
That's hilarious. It's the second imposter.
Third imposter. She was
the third imposter of the game.
And honestly, like I mean, she's very lucky that Katie went out this episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously she's not going to be on good footing with Spencer, probably. She's not going to be on good footing with Marcelo. He's definitely in like the chain of power right now. And like I said, once he gets that information to Jacob, I feel like there's going to be some trouble. So, you know, I feel like when we get to the other people, she might just be like mid B, but you know.
We'll see, I guess, after the next round. Yeah.
So, Marcelo, I kind of want to move him up. Like it's not up like top B, because like I feel like it's unfortunate that Katie went out, because if Katie didn't go out, I think that he'd be an A. Like I think he handled this round well, but people are also very skeptical of him and they're calling him sneaky in group settings. And people are just very wary of him. They know that he's close to Jacob, so his game's out there right now. But I do think he's playing better than Shireen, so I would put him at like top B. But what do you guys think?
I disagree. I don't think he's doing much of anything right now. Because I think you didn't hear much about him in this episode. I don't think he made any moves that made any movement around anything. The only thing he did was try to make a thing with Katie, and that didn't work out in the end because she's gone now. So if that had actually solidified, like maybe I would move him up, but I don't see him doing better than Shireen. Like Shireen actually solidified a relationship with Josh, and definitely 100% with Rachel.
Okay.
You know, and Muna and whatever, like that bond is there. I don't think he really there was nothing he did that made any movement whatsoever in this round.
And Marcelo is so lucky that he's with Jacob. That's to me why he's even up so high. Because not that any knock against his game, but like he's and Dylan said this last time, right? Don't tell me about it, like show me. And to me, like that's Marcelo's like tagline. Because again, like he was making a deal, but then in confessional, he's like, no, I'm not about this. So it's, to me, I'm almost just like meh on his game. And I think his connection, his pre-game connection, not even in-game, right? Which is why Shireen, I want to keep higher, because it's her in-game connection versus his like previous connection is kind of keeping him there, and like keeping, you know, like Jacob and even Muna, right, are able to kind of like move the riffraff out above him.
Yeah. I think he's good where he is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, what about Josh? How do you feel about Josh?
I think I'd move him down.
Really?
Interesting. I would move him up.
You want to move him to A?
No, sorry. Just above Marcelo. Sorry.
Above. Sorry. No, you know what? You're right.
Okay.
I think he had a pretty chill round. But like I would make the same argument as Marcelo where he didn't really move anything. Actually, sorry, I wouldn't move him down. I would keep him at a mid B, but above Marcelo because he made that connection with Shireen, who's like a really strong player. He still has that like pretty good connection with Billy. Like Billy didn't put him up in the killer round at all. He has that connection with Brent, which everyone knows about, but like, you know, that's good to have you're working with a sporadic player who's kind of in front of you or whatever. So they're kind of going to go before you are. And now he has this LOS, which he can kind of pull out of his pocket when he needs to, right? So actually, yes, I agree. I agree with this.
The LOS is a big thing for me.
The LOS is huge.
He's the only player in the game right now with an LOS. That's huge because that's what got him where he was in the first place. But you made it, Josh. It's fine. Yeah. But also, I think he actually played this round exactly how he should have, because if he would have come in like a Jay West guns blazing, he would have gotten in hot water again, maybe. And I think Billy would have nominated him because she was like, look at him, like, oh my god, he's my ally, but like I'm not going down with that shit. So to me it's also that like he was so chill, even like juxtaposition with Brent, right, when Brent was like, I am not playing with Josh. Like, he's going to cut me. I'm going to cut him. Blah. And all Josh said was like, that Brent guy, I don't like him, right? Like, I think he was calm. Cool. Yeah, calm, cool, and collected, which is exactly what he needed to be so that other folks don't feel like, oh, I need to get Josh out because I voted for him in the first place. So that's why I really think that, like, he didn't do anything, but I think that's what he should have done, because Billy, his number one ally, he super lucked out was because I think Billy sees him as like someone that they care about, maybe not number one, but a pretty high like ally. So to me, like he lucked out, but hey, whatever. That's why I think like he did exactly what he needed to do. Even him and Marcelo, like I think on his part he was genuine, even though like it didn't amount to anything. That's why I was just like, Marcelo, like, who are you loyal to besides Jacob? Like, dude, what are you doing? But yeah, so that's why I went. So to me, actually, him and Shireen are the same, but for different reasons.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the next person is Spencer Brief. Me personally, I'm moving him down. I will move him like behind Rachel, and here's why. I think he really burnt some bridges this episode. 3 bridges specifically: Muna, Rachel, and Shireen. So that's not good, especially with the Muna, because she, information and all of that. I do think that there is room to recover from this, because you got Natalie, who's going to want an ally. I'm pretty sure that Brent and Brendan are good with him. They gave him that information. And there's something with Jacob. Like, Jacob also didn't vote him. I still think Jacob was just trying to cover his butt just in case Spencer got in. But they have something. Now, I don't think Jacob's honoring that, but I do think Spencer's honoring that. But it's something. So where I don't think Natalie has the connections that she needs yet, just going into it. I think next week we're going to be having a completely different feeling on like all this cast. I think that like the grace period's over. But I feel like I would put Spencer behind Rachel.
100%.
Yeah. Pre-game connection just helped. That's period. That's what it was.
And he also lost Katie, who's his biggest ally. Yeah.
All right. So how do you guys feel about Rachel? Because I personally would probably keep her in the same place. I wouldn't I'm not dropping her too much because of the challenge. Like, when you're the detective, it's a challenge. I don't think I think people are going to look at her weird because she lied about a couple things. Now people know that she does that, but like, she is well connected with Shireen and Billy to an extent, and I think she's good with Muna, and with Muna comes the Jacob protection and all that. So I think Rachel is in an okay spot, but she definitely could be doing like way better.
Yeah, I'm not sure on her placement. Like, I'm totally fine with that, but I do want to note that, like, I think for sure the detective round was weird and a crapshoot, but like, I would like to say, I think there were a few missteps, right? Like, not enough information gathering, like, should have outed yourself, like earlier, blah, blah, like a few other missteps that I think she could have Whereas being detective, which we talked about already, like she could have really capitalized on. And I think the biggest misstep yet is like thinking that she's not going to go home because she got 3 votes. I mean, that's 3 more than Jacob did. So to me, it's just like she's, again, not reading the room the best. So that's why, like, I'm not sure where I would put her, but like, I agree that her, like, Muna and Shireen are helping her, I think, stay high, which is fine. Like, I'm not mad at it, but yeah, I think like I would like to say that asterisk at least because I think like I need you to read the room a little better.
Like she's definitely better than Spencer at this point.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely an asterisk because like I think her connections are the things that are keeping her higher up here. Because if you look at Brent right now, who's at a D, right? His connections are kind of all over the place and not really solidified, and that's probably what's keeping him lower than her right now. Is because she's pretty well protected, and like the whole like the 3 of them with the Spencer ordeal with like her and Muna and Shireen, like probably made them even closer. And the whole revealing the detective thing to only them has made them a bit closer. So she has those like close allies with her. So I think this is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think she thinks she's in a better position than she is.
100%. 100%.
That's basically the issue.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. So now we got 2 more people. We got Natalie, who just won a competition, so we don't know if people are going to perceive her coming in. Like, I mean, like now she can win comp. So, I still don't know if people are going to be threatened by her though. Like, I really don't.
I don't think so. They don't know what the challenge is. Also, she still doesn't have any connections at all.
Yeah, like I need to see her build those. Like she needs to get an alliance.
Yeah, that's why I was really. It's unfortunate that she called Billy out because to me I was like, oh, Billy was like the only person she talked to.
And now it's bad.
So I agree. She's like low C high D at this point because again, like Josh just had, I think, better connections coming in or like after he was done with his battle match versus I think Natalie, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a door open. There could be a door there for a bond with like a Spencer or a Josh who are equally down there.
Yeah.
Or Brent. I mean, I don't think that their personalities really mesh well, but I mean, there's an opportunity there. And Muna was actually also saying, because you know they're from the same state, they obviously have something there. I just need to see.
Yeah,
exactly. I think I would actually move her down.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I would move her down because I don't think she played this round well at all.
Okay.
She's like, I want to make a better connection with Billy, but she didn't really spend the time on it.
Right.
Again, we bring up the Muna connection with them living there, and Muna even bringing it up like she might drag me because of that. And it's like I think she could actually have talked about that a bit more when it came to like the round where they were like pushing names and stuff. She was like all over the place of what name she was pushing. She could have pushed more for Spencer. And the fact that she was down in the bottom 4 with 2 very strong players and yet she still made it to the bottom.
You've convinced me. Yeah.
It's like, what happened here? Like, it was just all a series of unfortunate events that could have been turned by just some more social play here.
Yeah. Like, she definitely needs to turn it. Like, I think that she needs to turn it around by next round if the train hasn't already like left.
Exactly. Like, I think she can. I think she can. She still has I think she still has time. She needs to mend that bridge with Billy, and she needs to connect with Muna a little bit more.
Like I'm assuming she knows that Muna said the state thing, right? Like I just hope, because to me that's an immediate connection and like a missed opportunity on her end to be like, we're both from the same state. Like I obviously don't know anyone. I'm here to be a number for you, you know, like, and I think Muna would bite because I'm just looking around, right? Like Muna's doing well, but like I think Muna almost needs this, like Rachel is like the only person that's on the outs that Muna has. So I think like if Muna starts getting this army of like the women, especially that are on the outs, I think and Billy, of course, but I don't even think Billy's on the outs anymore. But right, like the 3 of Rachel, Billy, and Natalie, I think it could be a really powerful like votes that wherever Muna wants they go. Like I
Mm.
hope that there's a way to do that. That's why I don't know that Billy is so easily swayed, but I think Rachel will be, and Natalie as well.
Yeah, I think Natalie can just like play the more like I'm not the threat here.
Yep.
Like I'm just, you know, like there's other bigger people that you can take out before me, like the Spencers or the Marcelos or the whatever. Is like, you know, let me help you take those people out. Like I can be this number for you. Like I think she needs to play that on that more.
Yeah.
And like that may give her more capital in that sense.
Okay.
Yep.
And lastly, we have Mr. Brent Longema. I think I would keep him exactly where he's at.
I was like, exactly at this spot. Yeah. Exactly. Again, the only real connection he has right now is probably with Josh.
Yeah.
And is that real?
Is that even real? We don't even know. It's up in the air. This run was pretty sporadic with him. Again, I don't know how things went down. And like, again, like he probably was up all night after the Katie thing trying to figure out what the heck his next move would be. It was a very anxious round for him. It didn't come off so well. I mean, I think he's fine right now because people are just like, okay, whatever. We got bigger fish to fry, whatever.
I think Brent and Celine are good too, to a degree.
Yeah, like it's that RHAP
okay.
connection, like not RHAP, but you know, the like, oh, we podcast and talk about this. I would actually, and I understand why we wouldn't, but I think I would move him to a low C because to me, he was an obvious target. And you know, like, and we know why he didn't get put up. But I really find it interesting that he didn't end up, getting on the chopping block even after the mess that happened. And like it wasn't even a point of conversation for the battle match. Right. Like whereas I think if it was anyone else, maybe like he would have been. So I think like it was a mess. We don't slam doors on people. We don't do any of that. And that's why like I feel like he needs to stay where he is. But like I would say with all the sporadic stuff, it's almost becoming like this is who Brent is and it's getting normalized. So that's why, you know what I mean? Like where Muna, I'm sure she said something, but like where Muna didn't even react to like having the door closed on her allegedly, right? Like maybe okay, she did. Cool. Yeah. So that's why to me, I'm like, maybe folks are like getting okay with him, like wilding out and acting this way. So that's why I would move him. But like, I'm not like, it's not a hill I care to die on.
Yeah. I think he's great. I think he's fine right where he is.
I would keep him right there. But
I'll only say that because the only reason he wasn't put up is because someone was trying to throw the blame on him.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he just knew it was so predictable, right?
That's true.
If he doesn't get in a battle match next episode, I would move him up.
Yes, I agree. If he kind of skates by after this 2 weeks of sporadicness and he's just like now like floating under this radar that everyone's just kind of like, he's fine now, whatever, we're used to it.
Yeah, like
then he can go up.
Yeah.
Then he can go up.
Tony, I mean, that's what they did with Tony. They were like, all right, he's cool. Like, that's just how he is. Like, you know, if he does fine without, if he leaves next round without people being like, all right, we need to get Brent out next. Because no one's really said that other than like Katie, and she's gone now. So, like, if he can get out that alive, like, I think other than, like, Brendan maybe will be the only one I could see, like,
and really Rachel, right?
And Rachel, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's fine, honestly. I mean, well, with caution, but
no, I think he's always going to, that's what I mean, where it's almost going to be like either that he's always going to be the pawn, right? Like, that doesn't go home, or he's just almost going to blend in with background noise, right? Like literally, with how much he talks, like folks are going to be like, yeah. That's blah, 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 whatever. Let me have my conversation. So so I see what you mean. Yeah. Let's see. Week 3.
Week 3. All right. That is 2:30. We did this way longer than we anticipated, but I had a lot of fun doing this one. Thank you everybody for watching episode 2. Thank you for everyone who stayed up 2 hours and 21 minutes just to hang out with us. And we look forward to speaking with you guys next week on Monday. Until then, have a good night, everybody, and we are gone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.